It's all right. I got ice if you just want to, like, in the middle of the show, just kind of rub ice all over your face.
Just pour it on me like it's fucking like
Flash dance.
Ah!
All right. This is the sound check portion, people. Let us know how we sound, please, and thank you.
Yes, please. And also thank you.
Right.
And things. Do things. Do it. Do it.
Yes.
I told them to get the clicks ready.
Yep. Oh, and just on cue, Stonebleeds with the clicks. So.
Well, Sweet Studios with the clicks.
Well, I was looking at Stonebleeds, but I guess Sweet Studios beat him to the punch.
Clickety, clickety, clack.
All right. Use and Abuse says we sound great.
Sweet.
Click, click. Oh, we got Isaac tonight, too.
Nice. So any question that we can't answer, we have our answer machines in the chat.
That's right. So we'll have Jamie look that up anytime.
You got ice in there?
I do.
I'm going to steal some more before we get started.
I pissed in it, but it's still cold.
Put the pee on you.
Drip, drip, drip.
At least you're well hydrated because I can't see it.
Oh.
Yeah, get in there.
Ooh. All right. It's my toast.
It is indeed your toast.
Let me get this or that queued up because I'm a professional.
Right. We are professionals.
Professional something. All right. Oh. I had an idea for a new bit for our intro.
Uh-huh.
You'll see it. Damn it. I wanted to tell you this before we went live, but you'll see. Or hear, I guess.
Could always, all right. That's fine. That's whatever.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
After the show?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're not going to do it live.
Oh, I'm doing the new intro live, but
great.
We'll discuss the details of it.
Fair enough.
After the fact. Professional, according to Dragon Buddy. Thank you. All right.
Are we red eye?
Yeah, I peed already, so I should be good for
excuse me.
Solid 45 minutes to an hour. If so, yeah. If you're ready to roll, give me a countdown, and we'll hop into it.
I'm ready. Ready?
Do it. To my son Robert and all of the high school graduates.
To your son Robert and all those other people, including my nephew Jojo.
Yeah, graduation season is upon us. If you're on Facebook, I'm sure, much like me, your Facebook feed is covered in graduation photos and congratulations and all that. So yeah, my son Robert, my oldest, is now officially a high school graduate. So I know this isn't new to you, but for me, this is new territory.
Oh,
having a child who's actually graduated from high school.
Yeah, and it's going to start aging you. Like all of a sudden, like this burden of age is going to start just draping itself over you.
It's the Saving Private Ryan meme, right? Where the face gets older and older. So
yeah, it's the good news is you have two younger ones, so you still have time to revel in like these what kids are like before they turn into adults, and then turn into adults and have adult problems.
Yep.
Because that's the big thing. Is now that they've graduated and they've turned into adults, now they have decisions to make that are going to affect the rest of their lives, as opposed to just being free, carefree kids.
Yeah.
So, but congrats.
Yeah, and
it's a big deal.
I think both of the Escape Pod guys had kids graduate also. Because I saw a bunch of stuff on Facebook from them too.
It's craziness.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse. The fact that you have somebody who's graduated, or that my kids graduated 4 years ago.
Yeah. Scary thought.
Yep.
But that being said, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sidebar Cantina, the podcast where we talk about Star Wars, pop culture, proctology, or whatever the fuck we feel like talking about. I'm Mr. Jason Roskam.
The third time today. proctology. We'll come back to that.
With me here each and every single week, the proctologist to my examinee, Dave Martin. Hello, Dave.
Am I the proctologist or the examinee?
We'll figure it out.
Just one finger, please.
How are you?
I'm good. It's the first day of summer.
Oh, I guess technically, yeah.
Yes, it is. The equinox was yesterday, so today is the official first day of summer, and I couldn't be happier. It's warm out. It's definitely summer heat right now, but it's fucking
summer heat.
That's not how the song goes.
No, okay.
No. You can sing it later though.
Well.
Tell me more. Anyway,
so yeah, no, I'm happy about the summer. I don't hate this heat, although my California family, they're going through a bit of a heat wave. My dad texted me this morning, said they got up to 115, I think, recently. So, ugh.
Yeah, indeed.
You're right over there?
That's all I have to say about that.
Okay. You seem distracted.
I'm interacting with the chat.
Well, while you're interacting with the chat, why don't you also tell us what we're talking about this week?
So, yesterday marked the 25th anniversary of my enlistment into the United States Air Force.
Wow.
So for both of us this year, it was the 25th anniversary year of our enlistment and getting into the Air Force. So we're doing a little Ask Me Anything style Q&A session, I guess, talking about our military careers.
Yeah.
Talking about crazy gold medallions.
Yeah, we're going to talk about broad strokes of things that we can talk about.
Right.
Because we both have top secret security clearances and don't really want to fuck that up.
And they're probably watching.
Yeah.
We know they're watching. I mean, honestly. I think one of them anonymously left questions for us to see if we fall for their tricks.
Yep. And we'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to talk about our military careers. We got some AMA stuff that's been collected from our social media director, Luna Girl, all week.
Yes.
Be a good discussion.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, we have a little segment on the show that we call This or That, where our social media director, Luna Girl, asks you a question on Instagram. And what is our Instagram?
At the Sidebar Cantina.
And she gives you two options. You pick one and we go over the results here on the show. This one is a Father's Day edition because yesterday was Father's Day. So let's hop right into it. Favorite TV dad? Jason Seaver or Carl Winslow? If you don't know, Jason Seaver from Growing Pains, Carl Winslow from Family Matters.
I went with Jason Seaver.
So did I. Dude, I loved Growing Pains growing up. I fucking loved that show.
It was a great show. And honestly, Family Matters was fun, but I really wish that fucking it would have locked up Urkel. And just like at some point as the father of having this annoying kid in your house all the time. I mean, it's even the nicest guys has to break at some point.
Well, there's a great Key and Peele sketch about Family Matters where it's basically, what was his name?
Jaleel.
Well, no, but the actor that plays Carl.
Fuck. I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. Jamie, look that up. And he basically goes into the studio head's office or something. He's like, what the fuck? This show has been about Urkel for the last season, and it's supposed to be about a family. It's called Family Matters.
Right.
And he's like, fuck Steve Urkel. And it was this whole thing.
Yeah.
Just watch it. Just Google Key and Peele. It's Family Matters.
Yeah, it's a good Key and Peele skit.
Yep. So, but yeah, I fucking loved Growing Pains growing up. That was like one of my favorite shows back in the day, even more than like Family Ties. I enjoyed Growing Pains more. Family Ties, a little bit too serious at times. Growing Pains was like just perfect for me and my age.
Did you feel like Alyssa Milano was like at that age where it's like, oh, this is the kind of the babysitter that like
you're thinking
I'm thinking of another one.
Yeah,
you're thinking of another one. Never mind.
Yeah, you're thinking
we'll save that for
the Tony Danza show.
Yes, we'll save that for in like one or two things.
Right. Yeah, you're thinking and by the way, Carl Winslow won pretty handily, 74% to 26%.
I think they was brought up in the chat. He was in Die Hard. I get it. It's cool, but yeah.
Reginald Johnson for the actor's name. Thanks, Jamie. Yeah. So favorite single dad, Tony. What the hell is his last name? Maselli from Tony Danza from the fucking show. Oh my god, why can't I think of the goddamn name of it?
I don't know. I want you to struggle like I struggle usually.
Fuck! Versus Danny Tanner from fucking Full House.
Right.
My god, what was the fucking name of the show? Who's the boss?
There you go.
Jesus Christ. Don't get old, people. It's not worth it. So yeah, I think I picked Tony because I hated Full House. Never liked that show. Ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Full House had its moments. It did. When I was younger and it kind of picked up like some of the vibe of that.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking what's her name? The one that was
Aunt Becky?
Yeah, Aunt Becky. She was oof, like just way too hot for that show. And she came into it late, I guess. But yeah, I went with Tony Danza. How can you not like Tony Danza?
Yeah. And yeah, the whole Alyssa Milano discussion, because she's always been our age.
Yeah,
right.
She's was born in
so it's not
72.
Yeah, it's not pervy when you're a 14-year-old looking at another 14-year-old on TV and being like
a 16-year-old on
or
TV,
16-year-old, whatever, being like I
wish you were my babysitter.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, moving on. Your average everyday working dad, Al Bundy versus Dan Connor. For me, it's Al Bundy.
I want to know the numbers. Who fucking picked Dan Connor?
Oh, let's take a step back to the previous question. Danny Tanner won 68% to 32%.
Fine, I don't give a shit.
41% picked Dan Connor. 59% picked Al Bundy.
What?
Which
why?
I don't know, man.
Why? That's what?
Al Bundy, Married with Children, was the best fucking show.
Oh my god.
Oh my god! Like, and you go back and you watch it now. Oh man,
that's like watching Archie Bunker.
Yeah,
you know, it's the same level of fucking just the way he treats like those women in the fucking shoe store.
Yeah,
I mean, they're great memes today. How many memes have fucking Dan Connor in it right now?
None.
I want you to go on the internet. You who chose Dan fucking Connor with that Roseanne fucking brought. I mean, the Roseanne herself just kind of ruins everything around it.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking you go there and find me a Dan Connor fucking meme. I dare you.
Do you remember when she sang the national anthem?
Oh, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just
that was like such big news.
Awful.
And it's like, what the fuck? Like, who thought this was going to be a good idea?
Yeah. No, I got 41%. 41%.
Yeah. I don't know.
Whatever.
So this one, I don't know if I'm going to lose any points for this, but I didn't vote for this next one because I'm not familiar with either of these two. Red Foreman, which I guess is from that 70s show, which I've never seen, or Bob Pinciotti. I don't even know what he's from.
It's Red Foreman.
Sure.
Red Foreman is that like that deadpan dad, like the bed check at night, thinking his daughter is the absolute fucking sweetest thing on the planet, and then treats his son like fucking garbage because he's a loser and a pothead and blah 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 blah. Red Foreman is the dad I aspire to be.
Nice.
Like it's actually really good. Just Google, like, go on YouTube and look for Red Foreman fucking like top 10 or whatever, and you'll enjoy it.
And you talk about memes. I know he's got memes all over the place too.
Dude.
But yeah, I don't think I've seen a single episode of that 70s show.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was just not on my radar at the time.
I don't know why I've seen it, but I've seen it.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Next, we've got animated dads.
Of course, Dave would choose Red Foreman.
We've got Peter Griffin versus Homer Simpson. I went with the classic Homer Simpson, though I enjoy Peter Griffin.
I went with Homer as well.
Yeah.
Homer is the affable, just like dumb dad. Just that donut loving, affable dude. You know, that's, I don't know. I love Family Guy. Don't get me wrong. I love Family Guy. It's some really, really funny shit comes out of Family Guy. But like the Simpsons have been around for as long as we've been watching TV and can remember. I mean, to be honest,
since the 80s. So we're talking 30 years.
At the end of Tracy Ullman show, which my parents used to watch. So I actually saw like in real time the fucking early Simpsons episodes and followed along with it. Like I went through this huge Bart Simpson phase. Like I could.
Oh yeah, most kids our age did.
Yeah, I could still draw him, and I actually draw him on the skateboard and everything else.
One of my school pictures from either late elementary or early junior high was me wearing the Bartman shirt.
Yeah,
with him in the Batman outfit.
Do the Bartman.
Yeah. So yeah, Homer won 61% to 39%. And
forbidden donut.
And that was this week's This or That. Remember, follow us on Instagram if you want to participate in our polls
at the Sidebar Cantina.
Yes. And you can also join the private Facebook group, the Sidebar Cantina.
The Sidebar Cantina.
Dave's got it down. He's
the
ready.
Sidebar Cantina.
Y'all finished?
The Sidebar Cantina.
All right. I think we get it. All right, moving on. You ready to get into our week?
Sure.
So, if at one point last week you noticed I wasn't posting on Facebook for a period of, say, 24 hours, that is because I got a one-way pass to Facebook jail.
Remanded. He was remanded in Facebook jail custody.
In the middle of last week because I may have said some disparaging things about a certain group of people. It was the Irish. I basically was commenting on a meme and I said, fuck the Irish. And apparently Facebook frowns on stuff like that. So, even though I'm white, I'm half Irish.
If you had said it in a British accent, then it probably would have let it go.
Right. But
fuck the British.
Right. So I don't know. I don't know why that was deemed ban-worthy, but I found it actually hilarious.
Listen, I almost feel left out that I have not been remanded into fucking Facebook custody. I don't go on Facebook. I just haven't. I've been avoiding it deliberately. Even the Sidebar Cantina stuff, I haven't been as on top of as I usually am. I'll usually binge it like right before I go to bed. I'll catch up on stuff to post it, but keep it coming. I love all the interaction that happens in our private Facebook group, but Facebook is just so cancerous sometimes, and stuff like this is why.
Yeah.
If each time they put somebody in Facebook jail, my stock would go up just a little bit, then I'd be happy. Like, fuck yeah, dude, I'll fucking disparage against whoever the fuck you want me to. But yeah, that doesn't help my stock. So,
and you know what? I'll say it again. Fuck the Irish with their stupid red hair and their fucking accents. I can't understand you. Go back to your country.
Realizing full well that I'm like 99%.
Oh, I know. I just thought it was funny. And again,
apparently Facebook did not.
No, which I guess
this is why. So we're having a conversation with Nick today where we're talking about the fucking stupid ass Sixers getting knocked out of the fucking playoffs. And I could give two shits about professional basketball. Really don't care. Like, I think I've said it on the show. Since Charles Barkley was wearing a Sixers uniform, that's the last game I watched.
Okay.
Right. I didn't follow Barkley to the Suns. I just stopped watching professional basketball. And I'll bet Swede reported you. Barkley says that he's going to quit, like, from TNT because, like, Barkley's very outspoken, right? He's gotten in trouble, like, even when in the 90s when he was a fucking Sixer for saying shit about people and just being Charles. And he's like, I can't fucking have fun anymore. Right. He can't. And so why would people watch something that's so, like, governed? Right. Let's govern this down to like a fucking go-kart track for 3-year-olds. And we're gonna make this so that it's palatable for everybody. And you're never going to make it palatable for everybody. So these personalities that make it entertaining for people like me who might not otherwise watch this bullshit, fuck you then. I'm like, I again have no reason at all to watch the NBA. None. I don't care about the Sixers. I just not a nickel in it. And to get back to your Facebook jail bit, but that's the reason. Like, Barkley is quitting doing something that he's good at, because if he says something off color, then he's fucking, embedded in the cancel culture. Fuck cancer, by the way.
So a little addition to this Facebook discussion. So we've had 2 videos in the past. When we broadcast, we go out over YouTube and over Facebook, over the old All Things Star Wars Facebook page. So we have had 2 of our videos struck down because we'll do
struck down
only, and we're talking specifically on Facebook, because we'll have a couple seconds of a music clip in there, like a copyrighted music clip.
Right.
And Facebook will be like, nope, it's coming down. This is copyrighted. And last week, we'd finished the show. Facebook sent me the message, said, "Oh, you're fucking struck down." I'd had quite a few drinks during the course of the show.
Indeed.
So it's like, would you like to dispute this? Yes, I would. Click. And what is your reason? And it's just a box to type in text. And I typed in, "Go fuck yourself." Click and submitted. 3 days ago, I got a message from Facebook. "Oh, your issue has been resolved. Your video is back online." I'm like, that's all it took for me to just tell them to go fuck themselves?
Go fuck yourself.
And it brought the video back up. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
That's so whatever algorithm decided it was going to take the video down also pays attention if you reply. It doesn't matter what you reply with.
It's got to be.
It's just going to like, oh, well, that person just went through the trouble of disputing it. So, man, we have to put his video back up.
Yeah. I just thought that was fucking hilarious. So
unbelievable.
Just want to give a big shout out to slavery and the free day off we got last week.
Oh my God.
I mean, not that slavery was a good thing, but it was good that it ended for multiple reasons, and one of which is that we got a day off last week.
Oh my God, the views of Jason are not necessarily the views of the Sidebar Cantina podcast and or Starkiller Incorporated, Starkiller Studios Incorporated.
Are you finished?
Yes.
So anyway, I heard rumblings at the beginning of last week that Biden was looking to make Juneteenth an official federal holiday. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because it was June and the anniversary of the freeing of the slaves and everything. And it progressed really quick during the week to the point where he signed it into law on Friday or Thursday morning.
Right.
And they made it a federal holiday for the next day, the Friday. I'm like, how the fuck are they going to pull this off? Like, such a short notice, like, oh, everybody's going to be off tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, everyone's off tomorrow. They flipped the fucking switch, because even like if you were on base, it's like, okay, it's not like you had an option to be like, all right, well, we're going to bring people in because it's kind of like there's stuff going on. No, sorties are canceled. Fucking the CDC is closed. Like, no, It's a fucking holiday. Putting the signs on the fucking windows. Go home. And it happened that fucking fast.
Yeah, and I was shocked because I was fully expecting them to be like, no, we still have this stuff going on. We still have flights going, so we'll go as minimum as possible. But no, man, it's like you said, there was just a 100% done. So that was no, but I mean, it's great. It's a good holiday to have. Probably better than having like Columbus Day. I mean, if we're gonna have fucking Columbus Day, then we might as well have.
Listen, I don't have a problem with the holiday at all, and what it stands for and everything else. 100% appropriate. 100% agree. I have a problem with the name. National Independence Day.
Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Okay. All I've heard is Juneteenth.
Well, and I'm fine with that. I understand what that means. I'm like, through cultural upbringing and being more empathetic to certain people and cultures and stuff like that. Cool. I understand what that means. June 19th, you're going to have National Independence Day, and then on July 4th, you're going to have Independence Day. Like, it creates this image of like one versus the other. That it's like somebody, and they
can live in harmony. Pick a different name.
I just don't understand why they chose that particular name. And fact is, there's Republican senators that voted against it because of that. They're like, hey, we're supportive of everything this is doing, except for this name. This name is bullshit. And they voted against it. Like the 14 people that voted against it.
There was
some of them voted against it because they're fucking.
Well, one fucking guy came out and said, oh, I don't think we should give government workers another day off on the taxpayer dime. It's like, motherfucker, first of all, do you know how much you get paid for doing the fucking shit job that you do? And you're going to complain about the rest of us federal workers and the one extra day that we get off? Fuck you.
Dude, that and the fact that like we work so much more, like our working hours, like I'm not talking about how productive it is, right? I'm just saying like how much they fucking push us into the work environment.
And we're going to get into that later when we talk about our military careers.
Like even outside the military, just being in the United States and working in this corporate environment, they expect you to work from fucking 6 a.m. to fucking 6 p.m. and turn around and say, thank you, sir. Can I have another?
Yeah.
Right. Again, we'll talk about that later with the military. But In other places, like in Europe, like in Switzerland, I had a buddy who lived out there. He worked for a pharmaceutical company, and they lived out there for like 3 years. They forced vacations. They're like, no, this is vacation. Like, oh, no, I have stuff to do. It's like, no, you're on vacation. Here's your 3 weeks. Go fucking tour the Alps with your kids and fucking go to Italy. And they did all this great stuff.
Damn.
Right? And yet they're still managed to be productive. They still... Like they're not a bunch of lazy slack asses. So like, what exactly is this fucking slave driver mentality? No pun intended. This mentality of driving everybody, like even making a comment like that, like, oh, one more fucking federal holiday. Fuck you. Yeah, exactly. Fuck you, dude.
Like all these motherfuckers in Congress have no room to fucking say shit because they get paid way more than what they actually fucking do if they do anything.
Yeah.
So fuck them.
Anyway,
how about when Congress takes their recess,
right,
and they're gone for like a fucking month? How about that?
They get paid for that, I'm sure.
Oh no, I'm sure they do.
Meanwhile, we got people selling back leave because they can't take the time off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to anybody who thinks that, fuck you. So I digress. I'm getting a Nintendo Switch soon.
I saw that in the notes. So what's the deal with that?
So last week was E3.
Oh wow, I totally forgot.
Yeah, so it's been kind of like on the downswing for the last, I don't know, almost 10 years now.
Yeah, whereas Olivia Munn left the fucking,
true,
left the airwaves as being anyway.
Yeah. No, like she was big on G4, right?
G4, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and E3 is the annual video game conference where it used to be a big fucking deal where every year, like all the publishers and the fucking console makers, they'd have all these new announcements for new games, possibly new systems. It was a big fucking deal. It's gotten less and less over the years, but last week was E3 and Nintendo had a pretty big showing for new Switch games. The biggest thing that they announced that immediately caught my eye was they're remaking the first two Advance Wars games on the Nintendo Switch. I don't know if you ever played the Advance Wars games.
I don't think I have.
The first two are fucking phenomenal. Okay. They're very basic military strategy games, turn-based strategy games, but they're so fucking good. The way that they were designed, the level of strategy, and just they did it in a way that makes it exciting, makes it enjoyable. Not a whole lot of frustration. Sometimes you'll have to play a map like 3 or 4 times to fucking get past it because, it can be pretty difficult. But dude, if you've never played any of the Advance Wars games, I'd highly recommend playing the first two. But either way, they're remaking them and putting them out in one package on the Switch, the first two Advance Wars games. And I'm totally hopping on that because I fucking love those games. And yeah, they announced a new Metroid, new Zelda, blah, 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 blah.
I did see something come across there was they had a Metroid poster or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm all about Advance Wars. I'm going to drop $300 for a new console strictly to get this remake of a fucking strategy game because it was that good.
And that's why they do it.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to look for Advance Wars on my port.
And while he's doing that, speaking of video games, I just want to say fuck GameStop. That company is shit. My boys, so for Father's Day, I got to take my kids to GameStop yesterday. That was what we did because they all wanted to go. So I'm like, all right, I guess. And the place is just fucking pathetic. So we walk in, no other customers. This is 1 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. Not a single customer in this fucking store in the middle of fucking Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And I'm looking around. For a while, they were trying to go like with alternate means of revenue streams. They were trying to sell a lot of board games, a lot of Pops figures, a lot of, a bunch of other different things that maybe had some video game tie-ins, but other stuff to do because video game sales have been plummeting for brick and mortar stores because everything's going all digital now.
Right. That and the fact that fucking GameStop, like you take something in there for like, here, let me trade this in. Cause the idea would be that you'd be able to trade and trade up basically. If you brought, here's this game system with some key games in good condition, boom, I could walk out of there with another gaming system. No, I mean, they're infamous for fucking giving you pennies on the dollar for what something is worth. And then when you want to go in there to buy like an old Xbox, like, hey, I'm looking for an Xbox One S, You know, not the fucking new fucking sex one or sex bot. What are we calling it?
The Xbox Sex.
Yes. Not any of that shit. I'm just talking a regular old fucking Xbox, and I'm sure people traded in 100 fucking times. You can't get them. Like, where the fuck are they? Like, I only reason I step into a GameStop is for pops.
Yeah,
that's it. Just to fucking browse whatever exclusive might be out there for the pops. But that's it.
Yeah, and you know, I was walking around. First of all, they don't even have PS5 and Xbox Sex sections. It's all still PS4 and Xbox One stuff. So I think they know the writing's on the wall, and they're not even like pimping these new consoles that are pretty much all digital at this point.
Yeah.
So
that's why I pray that I'm not, you know, look, I don't want GameStop to fucking go out of business and people to lose their jobs or whatever. But what I would really like is for people like a retro gaming shop, those to like have a revival.
Right. Because, well, that was one of the things that GameStop eventually absorbed as they were becoming GameStop. Because you remember it used to be like two different companies, EB Games and Software, etc. Back in the day. And then they merged into fucking GameStop. They also absorbed FuncoLand back in the time. Do you remember FuncoLand from the late 90s? That was a chain that was fucking everywhere. And that's exactly what they dealt in. They dealt in fucking retro games. You could get NES, SNES, Genesis, all the older shit. You can buy and trade all that stuff. And GameStop bought them out, absorbed them into their company, and then just completely shit canned the whole retro gaming concept. And now you can't...
Which is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, they're missing a market. They really are. Because I think that those of us that are console gamers, I mean, because eventually at some point we're going to get away from the Xbox Sex is basically a fucking computer that you're using your television as a monitor. And so the specs are going to have to run like a fucking computer with the graphics options and everything else. So you might as well get a fucking computer. Same thing with the PS5. They're entertainment systems that incorporate all this other shit, which is great, I guess. But I think the writing's on the walls that like having a cartridge for a game is gone. It's passé.
Right.
It's harder to get. Like your machine has the drive, right?
Yeah.
Because some of them don't.
Right. Yeah. The other ones are just hard drive only. There are no discs. But, you know, some of these older games are never going to get ported to the new system. So if you ever want to go back and you want to play some of these original games, you got to get that original console and a fucking workable copy of the game. That is still going to be a market. And
I just hope that there's, with the demise of GameStop is going to allow a retro gaming community to kind of step up and fill that void.
Yeah.
Because you can always fucking like, oh, hey, we're going to have a pre-sale for something. Who gives a shit? I'd rather just soon go to the Microsoft store and fucking buy it through them. If I know that business isn't going to profit much from it, just because I'm buying it through them, then fuck it. I'll just get it on my own.
Right. And yeah, pre-ordering is such a scam anyway through GameStop. Yeah. But that's the thing. They've had such terrible predatory business practices for a long time. As a company, I don't give a shit if they go under. Yes, I don't want to see anybody lose their jobs.
Right.
But I'll fucking celebrate the day GameStop goes out of business. And that's my week. What's been going on with you?
Dude, so... saw Nick at work today. So we're in this new like battle rhythm where we're coming into the office more often.
Nick, aka Big Swede, aka Tactical Swede,
all of the above. And I was like, man, I get to this point every week on a Monday where I'm like, what the fuck happened last week? And I can't even think about it. Like, I can tell you what happened on the weekend. It might as well be like for Dave, how was your weekend? Like, honestly, because I'd never fucking remember what's happened during the week. So on this weekend, on Saturday, I decided that the edging that I did the week prior, I needed to do the driveway as well. And it was a lot hotter this time. Like it was, I fucking busted my ass to get that fucking bit of yard work done. And I'm glad I did it. It's, you know, it's done, but fuck, they kicked my ass. So I was feeling it that night. And then the next day for Father's Day, you know, Kathy got me a nice donut in the morning. My favorite, my apple crumb from Dunkin' Donuts. So nice. I had a nice donut, got a pair of shorts for vacation. And then I was like, you know what? She had homework and shit to do. We went and visited, some family. And then I went kayaking. I was like, I haven't done it all year. Like, this is my first paddle. the tide was going out to the river. I was like, fuck it, I'm putting in, and I'm gonna have Kathy pick me up at the end of it.
Yeah.
So I basically paddled from my house, like across the street, all the way to the Delaware River. It was great.
And now, stupid question: do you have your own kayak?
Yeah, we have 2 kayaks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something that we got years ago. That it was I had an opportunity to get them. It came into some money by accident, winning a 50-50, which I never win. Like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to spend this money on, and buy kayaks.
Nice.
So yeah, we have 2 kayaks and all the accoutrements that go with it. And yeah, so all I have to do is walk across the street to my, the kids' dock across the street, just boom, dump in, and off I went. So I took some pictures. You can see them on Instagram at PhillyDave75. I'm not happy with my edits for the ones that made it to Instagram, so I still have other work to do.
He's a perfectionist.
It's you sometimes when you take stuff out of the raw file format and convert it to JPEG, I think it does something with the color a little bit, but I digress. But it was nice. I was by myself, dodged some fucking boat traffic because guys were out there with their boats and doing stuff. I'll tell you, people don't realize that how active that creek is for boat traffic and everything, just because you can go right out to the Delaware from there.
Yeah.
And I basically went right to the edge of the fucking Delaware. There's like a little island before it got into the heavy part of the river. So I had ideas in my head. I'm like, oh, I'll go out on the river and paddle for a little bit. Way too fucking choppy. Like, nah, you know what? I'm not going to do that. So I had to paddle back and have Kathy pick me up. But it was great. It was great. I'm glad I got out. I need to get out more and do shit like that as opposed to all the other things I decide to handcuff myself with.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was nice. It was a nice day. And what did I do after that? I did something significant and I can't remember what it is. Kayaking. Then nope, it's gone. I have no fucking clue. No idea.
All right, fair enough.
Anyway, that was it. That's my week. Where's Ivo?
He's actually in the chat.
Is he?
Yeah.
Sorry, Ivo. I'm fucking working at 1 a.m. Oh, sad face. But in fairness for Ivo, it's going to be it's not a topic. It's a topic driven about us anyway. So it might as well be, how was your 25-year career?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So the show is all about us. And
oh, that's right. Vickers reminded me. So there's basically Biden, right? We live close to Philly airspace, right? And when Biden goes home, it's called a TFR, right? It's basically like restricted flying area.
Okay.
So being the solstice last night, I'm like, oh, you know what? It'd be cool to fly the drone and, get some sunset pictures, for the solstice. Because, there's some clouds and dead blue, clear blue skies don't necessarily make the best sunsets. You want some clouds in there.
Yeah. Get that contrast. And
yeah. So I'm like, oh, there's some clouds out there. Let me go do that. Right. So I was sitting right after dinner and I'm like going in my phone to get my clearance because I get clearance to fucking fly in the airspace.
Mm-hmm.
You go to get the clearance. I see the TFR. I'm like, what the fuck? I was so pissed because it usually doesn't extend all the way to where I'm at.
Right.
And this time it did. So I was fucking annoyed. 0 drone flying. And because I'm licensed fucking pilot, now I have to obey that shit.
Thanks a lot, Biden.
So yeah, I didn't get any sunset. And you know what? It probably wasn't that good anyway.
Sure.
We're just going to go with that.
All right. Fair enough.
Anyway, that's it.
So do you need a break or are we just going to hop right into our main topic?
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. So yeah, as we said at the top of the show, we're talking about our 25-year military careers or 50+ year combined. And yeah, this is the 25th anniversary. I joined the Air Force in February of 1996.
Right.
I did my initial prep and process in November of 95. But yeah, I actually shipped off first week of February in 1996. And you said your anniversary was yesterday, right?
Yesterday, yeah. 20 June, 1996.
Yeah. And that's the day you left for basic training,
No,
right?
that's the day I signed up. That's the day I raised my hand.
Okay.
So that's where I'm counting it.
All right.
Because for me, the way we came in, you came in active duty, I came into the Air National Guard, right?
Right. And we're going to get into the differences between the two.
So, but for the initial enlistment, I went to drill weekends for all the way up until the point where I left.
Okay.
So I was there, like I was getting paid, to be there on the base, even though I hadn't been through basic yet or anything else. So I was there pre-gaming, as it were, for when I left for basic, which was in January 97. Like I left January 2nd, 97.
Okay.
So I had almost 6 months of, being around, getting paid, kind of learning how shit worked. Got to go out to the airplane a couple times, not knowing had any fucking clue what they were talking about. But yeah, so that's why right away, as soon as I got there in June, I was drilling.
Okay. And when did you actually go off to basic training? Like what month?
To January 97.
97. Okay. So yeah, for some reason I thought you and I were a little bit closer in our basic and our school dates.
Because when we talk about when we ended up in Keesler for the first time, I think you had just left when I was getting there.
Well, I left Keesler in September of 96.
Okay.
Yeah. So we missed each other by about 6 months or so.
Yeah.
So, all right. But anyway, yeah, we'll get into all of that. And the way I'm going to do this is we've got a couple of main talking points, and then we've got all these AMA questions mixed in. So some of these AMA questions will lead into the discussion points, and we'll go with that. Big Swede from Swede Studios said he went in August of 95. So actually before both of us.
Yeah. He was a young buck when he joined. I was 21 when I went in. So
yeah, and he's been retired for a while too. So
right. Same amount as I have, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
We'll get there.
So Wally Frogmore asked, did you both always want to join the Air Force out of all services? Or was it just how life panned out? And why is the Navy the superior service? Well, thank you, Wally, for that question.
Yeah. And thank you for the fucking the Jason Rose picture, by the way, which still brings us gifts.
You already gave him a hand job last week. So.
I know, but he deserves it.
Which, by the way, the first shirts have already been shipped.
Yes.
Scott from the Used and Abused podcast is already wearing his.
If you've been to the TeePublic site, search for the Sidebar Cantina podcast. You can also buy a shirt. And if you do buy some merch, fucking go on Instagram and tag yourself with it. Tag the
tag us.
Tag at the Sidebar Cantina. That's it. At the Sidebar Cantina. Fuck. I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway. So who's answering this first? You gonna answer it?
Yeah, I can, I guess. So
I got a long-winded answer.
There's a whole big thing as to why I joined the Air Force. And I think I'll start with that, like the why. Mm-hmm. Because I had no desire to join the military. I had fucking military recruiters calling me from like sophomore year of high school because they were trying to get me to join the reserves. It was mostly the Army or the people that really wouldn't leave me the fuck alone.
Right.
And they were trying to get me to join the Army reserves. They're like, oh yeah, you just, you go to basic training over the summer between grades and, you'll still do your 1 weekend a month and all this.
In the Army reserves.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Yeah, I don't really need to be doing this. And I graduated high school and I just assumed like you graduate high school and you go right into college, right? That's what you do. That's what's expected of you, right? Because our generation, we were always taught you got to go to college.
Right.
You have to go to college.
Yep. It's so much so that like when you were in high school, you were either in the college prep, courses, or you were in the fucking, the kids that are going to work in auto shops,
right?
Courses, which was the better way to be, honestly. I wish I was.
Oh yeah, we could get into a long discussion about that, but yeah, of course I was in all of the college prep classes and all that, and it was just the assumption was you had to go to college. That's the next thing, and there's no other option. So I do that. I'm working this whole time. Like I had a job from my sophomore year all the way throughout high school.
Right.
Like I always had a job. And so I was in the workforce. And then when I graduated high school, that the part-time job I was working bumped up to full-time. So now I'm working full-time, making minimum wage, mind you, which was at the time $4.25 an hour.
Yeah.
Which was
stupid low.
Garbage. Yeah. And I start trying to go to college. I think I enrolled in like 3 or 4 classes. And I very quickly realized I had no passion for it. And I also realized there was no accountability for it either. It's not like back in the day in high school where you're late on a bunch of assignments and they fucking call your parents and all this.
Right.
If you don't do your assignments or you don't go to fucking class, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, they don't give a shit.
And I'm like, okay, then why am I even bothering? Right. Because I had, again, no desire to continue going to school. I was working full time, and really at the time I was more interested in hanging out with my friends and chasing fucking girls.
Right.
And I had no desire to like stay in the whole education system. And I'm doing this I tried to go to college for that first semester after high school. And I quickly realized, like, all right, this isn't working. Like, I'm not going to stick with college. Like, if I just stay here, I'm going to drop out and just not go to any classes. But at the same time, I don't want to work as a fucking security guard for $4.25 an hour for the rest of my life. And I don't want to fucking live at home for the rest of my life. So I got to do something with myself.
Right.
Like, this isn't working, but I'm not going to be a fucking bum either. And that's when my mom kind of mentioned to me again, she's like, military isn't always an option. Like, fuck. Because I had a cousin who joined the Navy right out of high school, and he was doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
He was he was like a year or two ahead of me. And I always looked up to him, really, really good guy. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's the way I need to go. Maybe I should follow in my cousin's footsteps, but I ain't doing the Navy. Because even he told me, he's like, dude, don't join the Navy. He's like, you want Air Force. Like, if you were going to join the military, go Air Force. That is the best branch,
right?
Period. I'm like, all right. And that was it. Like, I called up the Air Force recruiter. And again, this was in like November of 95. Within a week and a half, I'm signing papers and he's sending me off to MEPS. And it happened so fast. And I don't really do things sporadic or not spontaneously.
Right.
But this thing I did because for some reason it felt right. It felt like the right thing to do. So it was very spontaneous, very fast the way it progressed. And like that, I was gone. And yeah, that's kind of how it all started for me. And again, I had multiple people who had been in the Army, people who had been in the Navy tell me, don't go in these branches, go in the fucking Air Force. And that's why I went Air Force. Because I always knew it was for the smarter people anyway. And, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I was pretty fucking smart back in the day. I can't say that now, but at one point I had a high level of intelligence.
That's fair.
Yeah.
At some point.
The alcohol, all the time that we spent flying, that ate away all of those brain cells.
Yeah, between oxygen deprivation and fucking alcohol abuse. Yeah, for sure.
And we'll get into that. All right, so that was my long-winded explanation.
So I will try to make mine not as long-winded as it could be. So the plan was not always to join the Air Force for me. I also, along the same lines, was looking at college. Mm-hmm. I wanted to go to Embry-Riddle. I wanted to be a pilot. That's what I aspired to do. Like
commercial pilot kind of thing? Okay.
Like my goals were to go to Embry-Riddle, which was an aeronautical, it still is an aeronautical university. That's what they're famous for. You can go there, and I was going to major in aeronautical engineering and fly airplanes and go and convert that into being a pilot at some point. Now, flying and planes and everything has always been in my blood, like for as long as I can remember. So, but it never really thought about the Air Force. It was more about flying.
Right.
My dad was he was on an aircraft carrier. Like he initially, when he got in, again, I come from a military family. Like this is a third generation of modern military service from World War II through Vietnam.
Right. And that's one thing I wanted to mention too, is I didn't come from a military family. Like aside from my cousin who went into the Navy, I was like the only military person in my family. And I think I'm the only one from my family that like went all the way through and is going to retire.
Yeah. And it's funny how sometimes that works. Like either there's no association with the military at all, or like had this lineage. Like Marines are famous for that, right? It's like if they're, grandfather, the father, the son, their sons are all going to be fucking Marines that for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Some sort of brain damage, I guess. Or they just love being abused, which is probably the same thing.
Sure.
So I rolled up, talking about college still, I applied to Embry-Riddle, got accepted into Embry-Riddle like my junior year, end of the junior year, all that stuff. I was going to go to Daytona Beach for fucking college. I was so excited. And I had a absolute garbage fucking, like the guidance department at my high school was just My guidance counselor was absolute garbage.
Really?
Like there was no like, hey, all right, you've been accepted to this college. Congratulations. Like now how do we make this work so you can pay for it? Right. Student loans. And none of that conversation ever happened. It was always like, you figure it out on your own.
Really?
And, I unfortunately didn't get a lot of financial aid because I didn't know the system. And it was too expensive. Embry-Riddle is an expensive school.
I believe it.
So I wasn't going to Embry-Riddle. I resigned myself to the fact that I'm probably just going to be a cop and fucking, follow my father's footsteps in law enforcement and be a cop and go to fucking community college. I decided I was going to go to Camden County College for a criminal justice degree. And I did a semester. And the criminal justice stuff was at night. I was with these guys who were cops and fucking, getting their stripes or whatever, trying to earn their associate's degree. I was like, oh, this is fucking cool. And there was, friends of my dad's that were cops in Camden. And, my uncle Fred, who passed away, he's from Camden. Like that side of my family, like they grew up in Camden. Mm-hmm. So in the Camden Police Department, obviously it's Camden, New Jersey. I mean, look it up. It's not any better now than it was. It's better now than it was then. I'll put it that way. And so I'm like, you know what? Talking to these guys, they're like, yeah, join the police force. We'll, use your uncle's address and we'll get you through the academy, do 3-4 years here, and then go fucking get hired in one of the townships and make fucking triple your money. Because you've been you've been through the battle zone,
right?
So you have all this like experience, and then you can go into a township like that,
in the ghetto.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, this is a fucking great idea. So I was like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And my father's like, you're not doing that, and fucking whoop, shut it off.
Really?
Yeah, completely like kink the hose on that. Like it was a bad idea, and I can't argue with the result. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am had I done that same thing. But at the same time, it was like I thought I had my shit figured out, and all of a sudden, no, you're not. Pick something else.
See, that's funny too, because this is the first time I've ever heard this story.
Yeah,
I had no idea you were trying to be a cop.
Yeah, so and it has a lot to do with that lineage, like my dad being a police officer, my grandfather worked for the prosecutor's office. He was a United States attorney, like all this stuff. So law enforcement was there. And so that got shut off. And I'm like, well, pursuing, like there's guys that pays their way through the academy and then get hired, but the hiring rate isn't really good. I'm like, this fucking sucks. So I was throwing bags at fucking Philadelphia International Airport, making like $8 an hour, right? Which is better than what the minimum wage
I was making, at the same time.
But still wasn't a whole lot. And I'm throwing bags in Philly and not really have nothing going on for myself, but enjoyed the shit out of it. I love that job.
Sure.
I was around airplanes all the time. Some great stories about my time at the airport. But I ran into there was a couple of guys that I worked with down there. One of them, his name is Howard Miller. You know what Howard Miller is? Chief Miller.
Yeah.
From and Calvin Rozier. These guys, they worked. Harold worked at Airborne Express as one of the mechanics, and Calvin worked with me with American doing the baggage handling thing. And that was his night job. His day job was as a technician in the Air National Guard. Okay. Right. So he did that all day and then fucking commuted down to the airport and fucking and did bags.
Jesus.
The afternoon shift wasn't really that hard. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Sorry, Calvin. But it just wasn't. I like to work there. So I came in at night, worked overnight into the morning, did the morning go, and then went home and slept and came back and did it again. Because I was 18 years old and fucking could do that shit.
Yeah.
So after a couple of years, kicking around the idea like this kind of sucks, and I'm really not I'm not going to make any money doing this.
Right.
So, I had this idea that I was going to join the Coast Guard, and my dad being in the Navy, like my whole thing with the Coast Guard was like I grew up going to the shore. I know that Cape May is the Coast Guard basic training. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm like, I could just get stationed in fucking Cape May. It'd be great. I'd be down the shore, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is how ignorant I was to what really would happen. Mm-hmm. And then when I started talking to people about it, like, no. You don't get stationed in Cape May. You get everywhere else in the world. You can be on a boat in fucking Alaska, which, yeah, that's where my cousin Rick is right now.
As part of the Coast Guard?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he's active duty Coast Guard.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, so it's like, okay. Oh, sorry. I just saw something in the chat. I thought somebody got electrocuted. Anyway, so yeah, I had thoughts of the Coast Guard. Somebody straightened me out. I was like, dude, no, you can go anywhere. I'm like, fuck. And I was getting serious with Kathy at the time. And so, talking to Calvin, and he was trying to like nudge me into joining the Guard, right? Him and Harold both, between like both sides of it. And they made it seem like it sounded really good, but I realized like, the Guard, kind of like coming from Vietnam era, like my dad being there in Vietnam, my grandfather being fucking one of the heroes of World War II, right? And like this image of the Guard just didn't sit well with me, right? It just seemed like these are the people that were trying to not, they didn't get drafted and they're trying not to go to Vietnam.
Right. Like, wasn't John Kerry one of those, like him and George W. Weren't they both Guard guys that were technically in the military during Vietnam?
Yeah,
but they
they're Air National Guard.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the difference between International Guard and active duty.
Yeah, that's our next bullet point.
The next bullet. But so anyway, what the hell is happening?
I don't know. The chat's having their own.
Anyway, so Kathy gets pregnant, right?
Whoops.
Yeah. Whoops. So Kathy gets pregnant, and I'm working at the airport still. I'm like, fuck, I need to get like a real job. Like I had a couple of jobs. Like I wasn't just working the airport. I was also working in CVS, and I had an overnight job at Wawa, which I ended up.
We've heard those stories.
I ended up having to quit pretty soon. So, I'm working. I'm like, this isn't going to work. Like I have nowhere to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I got a kid coming. I can't fucking something's got to change. Right. Same thing. It's like I know I need to change something. So what's going to be that thing? Excuse me. So I'm like, all right, well, let's check out this Air National Guard thing. Right. I've been on McGuire hundreds of times. My dad was with Customs and he would go and clear. I was there watching all the guys come back from Desert Storm.
Oh,
like
shit.
all the guys coming off the 141s and clearing Customs at McGuire, because McGuire used to be where everything transited.
Yep.
Between McGuire and Philly. And I had been handling the guys on rotators, like coming back while I was working at the airport, because we did that. We did the transitory bags that used to be in Philly before it's in Baltimore. So I've been around the military my whole life. So go to check out the Guard thing. They're like, yeah, here's what you could be doing. I still had aspirations like, oh, you know what, I'll be this would be great. I can go to security forces, start getting this law enforcement background and still pursue that. So needless to say, I didn't do that. So what the change was, I went and I took the ASVABs, right?
So you didn't take it in high school?
No.
See, that's weird because they made us take it in high school.
No.
When I was in, and I think that's why I was constantly getting calls from recruiters, because they had my fucking ASVAB scores and they were all fucking like really high.
Yeah. I think the lowest score I had was a 98.
Nice.
And so I scored really well. And I took the test at the Cherry Hill Armory, down here off of Route 70.
Sure.
And I came out, and the Flyers had just fucking had a playoff game. Like I was a little bit groggy. I wasn't in the best shape to take this fucking test.
Right.
And so I take the test and apparently score well. And when I sit down with the recruiter again, it's like, well, I said, yeah, thinking about security forces and law enforcement. He's like, well, this, if you had scored what you need to be for security forces, like, this is how much of the Air Force you can get into.
Yeah.
But this is what you scored, and this is how much you could get into. And then like showed me like every fucking job.
Right.
So I'm like, well, that's fucking cool. So then I picked avionics, which, as did you.
Now, and that's the thing too. I didn't even mention that, but when I went through my MEPS processing and everything, they basically handed me a binder and they said, these are all the jobs that we have openings for right now. And as I'm flipping through it, they're all fucking aircraft maintenance jobs, because pretty much all the time the Air Force needs aircraft maintainers in one of the many different professions of aircraft maintenance, be it, avionics or hydraulics, electronics, whatever.
Right.
So, but I, not knowing shit about shit, like I shouldn't have just accepted that. I should have had a job in mind and be like, no, I want to do that. Because if I could go back, I would have gone in as a boom operator.
Sure.
Like I'd have gone in right from the get-go. I'd be like, get me a boom operator position or I'm not signing anything.
Yeah.
And I'll wait.
But we don't, and we don't know that. The thing you hear about these recruiter nightmares is that people don't get all the information and they're like, oh, go in there with the job and everything else. And then suddenly you're sitting there with this guy who's being paid to fucking convince you to do something that I need more of this and not as much of that. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to steer you into these fucking things and tell you how great these things are.
Right.
Now, with the Guard, because I came in the Air National Guard, whatever I chose, that was my job.
Yeah.
Like I VFR direct to that fucking job. I didn't have to worry about going into the fucking players pool and not having been selected for something and having to deal with the fucking peasants.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to fucking right to whatever it is that I had selected to do.
Right.
And, I picked being avionics guidance control. It was a longer tech school, but I looked at having the electronics background as something that I could leverage into doing something, more as a career on the outside.
Which coincidentally was the same career field that I entered the Air Force as,
which is
the avionics guidance and control.
Yep.
Aircraft maintenance, and we both did it on tanker aircraft, though I went straight to the KC-10s while you went to the KC-135s.
Right.
But we went through the exact same school.
Yeah.
The 6 months at Keesler Air Force Base.
Yep. You did. It was 3 months of, it was a total, I think, 9 months for me, because the first 3 months was the E&E portion where you did all the electronics shit.
Oh yeah, you fucking get a soldering board and you're fucking soldering.
And it's together. Graduate level electronic stuff too. Like you're learning fucking the Ohm's principle, and you're learning how to basically build circuits.
Yeah,
and
you actually do it. You build circuits. They're pretty basic, but still.
And it's one of those things where you were working on airplanes. We were being trained to work on airplanes that were built in the newest ones were the 80s.
Right.
But the B-52, the fucking 135, you're talking about airplanes that were built, when our parents were alive.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking the mid 50s into the early 60s. So the technology was very, very basic at that level. I mean, granted, basic is probably, there wasn't a lot of computing going on for a lot of stuff. There was a lot of logic.
Yes.
And there is a difference
because
troubleshooting a certain thing when it has logic attached to it and then troubleshooting a computer are two different things.
Yeah.
Because usually a computer can tell you what the fuck is wrong with it. So yeah, we went through this fucking fire hose of electronics, portion of the tech school, then had a small break, did weeds and seeds, and then, then finished it up with the guidance and control stuff.
Yep. Really quick, Lunar Girl asked in the chat, what years were we maintenance, specifically on the KC-10s? So I was KC-10 maintenance at McGuire Air Force Base from October of 96 until January of 2000. Yeah. So
I was never on the 10. I was always on the 135s.
Yep.
I interact with the 10 now, ironically.
Yeah. So we've been touching on it a little bit already, the active duty versus Air National Guard. So in case anybody's not familiar, when you join the military, even if you join the Air Force, there are different sectors of the Air Force that you can join. You can either go active duty, which is what I did. You can go Air Force Reserves,
right,
which that's, I think, what most people have in their head when they think of like the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year.
Right.
Or you can go National Guard, which in my head, that was always the guys that are breaking up riots and stuff at the local level. And I didn't quite realize what the role of the Air National Guard actually was until I joined years later. So, but for active duty, it's you enlist in active duty and you can get sent fucking anywhere, literally. you enlist and you're at their mercy at this point. You're the next 4 to 6 years of your life, your ass is theirs. You go where they want you to go. You do what they want you to do.
And you have a dream sheet, which I think they still do.
They do.
I think they still, they basically said, hey, where do you want to go?
Right.
And they give you an idea where Air Force bases are and you can pick. And
I'll give you a great idea as to how much bullshit that was, because even though I knew I needed to change, even though I knew I had to get out of the situation I was in, I didn't really want to leave my family and my friends, because everything I knew, my entire universe was in that small town of Bakersfield, California.
Right.
I didn't know anybody anywhere. I left the state of California twice in my life that I remember before I joined the Air Force. So like that was my whole fucking world. So when I got my dream sheet, I picked everywhere in and around California. Where did they fucking decide to station me? New Jersey.
McGuire Air Force Base.
Yeah, McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey. I tried like hell to get out of that. Nobody wanted to trade except for one guy who got orders to South Carolina. It's like, oh, you want to trade? I hear you want to get out of your orders. I'm like, I mean, I might as well fucking stay. South Carolina is not going to get me any closer to California.
Right.
I might as well stay in the fucking Northeast, where at least there's like New York and all this other shit around. So, but yeah, no, the California boy who on his dream sheet put everything on the West Coast got stationed in fucking McGuire. So that dream sheet is bullshit.
Yeah. I like our Air Force brethren in the chat are chiming on that.
Yeah. They want to know your dreams so they can then crush them immediately. And welcome to active duty. Whereas with the National Guard, when you join the National Guard, you join a specific National Guard unit.
Right.
And that unit is stationed at that base, and that never changes. So for you, when you joined the Guard, you knew you were always going to be here in New Jersey. You knew there was no chance of them being like, oh, we need somebody in fucking Florida, so you're going to Florida for the next 4 years. Right. So, and that's the big difference. Obviously, you can still get deployed, and you can still go on overseas missions, but at the end of the day, your home station is always going to be that local. So that's why I tell people in this area who are thinking about joining the military, but they don't want to go anywhere, then you need to join like either the Guard or Reserves.
Right.
Because then you won't have any worry about getting stationed somewhere else.
Yeah. And just to codify it just slightly, we're talking like when we joined in the mid 90s, right? We were at relative peace, right?
Yeah.
We're going to probably talk about our Operation Southern Watch and Northern Watch deployments here in a second. Excuse me, because that was what was going on at the time. Right. That and Bosnia and some other shit. But for the most part, this is a peacetime environment. We're an all-volunteer force, and the mission of the Air National Guard was basically to here's these airplanes, maintain these airplanes to their highest level of standard, fly local missions, stay current, and do everything, and be prepared to get called up when you're needed. Right. So everything was in a standby. And then the secondary part of that mission was to assist in state aid, like for things like, I don't know, a hurricane fucking shelter.
Which if we have time, we'll get into that. We talked about it a lot already on the show, but yeah, we'll talk about that too. And then, when fucking 9/11 happened, I feel like that kind of changed the whole dynamic.
Everything changed. So like if you were going today and you were going to your recruiter and you were looking at, okay, here's the Air National Guard and here's the active duty. There's the constant there is that if you join that Guard unit, then yes, you were attached to that state until you decide you want to leave it or pursue other career goals. But you're not going to get PCS to somewhere else involuntarily. So, but you're also not sitting around waiting to get deployed. You are on a normal rotation with everybody else to go get deployed.
Yep.
And that's because we all are playing in the same sandbox, basically. And there's not enough active duty to support all of the mission set. So they need the Guard, they need the reserves, and they maintain a very robust full-time fleet for that, which we both bore the benefit of as AGRs. But that's, again, a little bit, down the road. But yeah, the main difference today, if you're talking to a recruiter right now, is like, hey, I want to do this job, but I want to stay in the local area. Cool. Go talk to the Reserve or Air National Guard. Be prepared. If you decide the Air National Guard, there's some benefits, right?
Oh, sure. State
tuition assistance. A lot of states in the 50 plus, or there you got 50 and plus the DC, right? So 53. Guard represent. Anyway, if you join the Air National Guard, okay, here's your jobs. Like, there's only going to be, like, unless there's a weapon system flying or multiple weapon system flying in your state, you're either going to get this or that. That's it.
Right.
And you're going to get to stay home. But there's other limitations to the Guard, which I'm sure will flush themselves out.
Yeah.
Whereas with active duty, it's like, hey, I just want to fucking go get away. All right, great. You as soon as you sign up, now Air Force owns your ass.
Mm-hmm.
With the Guard, Air Force owns your ass all the way up until the point where you graduate basic, your tech school, then you go back to the Guard, and now you're in a drill status.
Yeah, which is the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year.
Allegedly.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, because if you're looking for full-time employment, that's not guaranteed if you join the Guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's because with the Guard, it's closer to, I guess, the public sector, where you have to wait for a job to open up, and you have to apply for it, and you have to interview for it. So you don't just like get the job because you signed your name and said, I want to join.
Yeah. I don't know that we want to go into that deep a detail, the difference, but I think the bottom line, like, if you want to make the military a career, unless you have a relative that's in that unit, or you know somebody that's going to be able to get you into a full-time position, you're much better off going to active duty.
Yeah. At least to start.
Yeah.
And then migrating to the Guard or reserves after that, after doing a stint in active duty.
After you get your, hey, here's your experience base and everything else. Hey, I want to go do this in this state. Like, I have this experience, and you're more likely to get onboarded into something like that. But yeah, is that clear?
Yeah.
Make that clear?
So anyway, getting back into some of the AMA questions, Don Solsky had asked, what advice should he give his son in a month when he leaves for boot camp? So I don't know what service he joined.
Navy.
Oh, it is Navy. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I mean,
Brady, you're in the chat, so correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure he was going in the Navy.
So I really guess it depends on the personality type, but basic training it's to really kind of shove you into that military lifestyle. And it's also to weed out the shit bags. At the end of the day, though, and this is what I would tell him, they're not looking to kick you out, because that, I think, was always the fear for people who weren't really in the know. That they were like, oh God, I'm going to fuck up in basic training. I didn't fold my fucking clothes right, or I didn't make my bed right. They're going to kick me out and I'm never going to make it.
I don't think they have any conceptual idea of what even, like, the clothes folding and everything else. I think most people, when they go in, are afraid of getting yelled at.
Right.
I think they really don't. The people that probably do best initially in basic, like from that shock factor, are the people who had parents that fucking yelled at them.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you were used to being berated and fucking like feeling like you were a piece of shit, then guess what? You're going to do okay in basic training.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, and any service, whether you're going in the Marines, the Navy, or anything else, that like you said, there's a bit of a weeding out process where it's like, okay, are you going to fold? Like, are you going to just, like, here's a good example, right? In basic training, my flight, we had door guard, right?
Oh yeah.
Door guard, Dorm B5, may I help you? So my BMT group had, we call ourselves the Alert 5. It's basically only these 5 people fucking did door guard because Habeck, our fucking TI, only trusted us to do it because other people would fuck up and get him in trouble. So it was only us. So we slept less than everyone else, which is fine. I didn't sleep anyway. So one of the things I got to do was I got to babysit this fucking kid in the brig, right? And what he, like, this really big dude, like, you would never think that this dude was fucking basically in a corner crying because he couldn't talk to his mother, right? And legitimately, like, we're talking about our basic training stories. Like, I was in the House of Pain. You were not.
Right.
So our experiences, even though we were there in the same time frame, were completely different. Like, the House of Pain was, you got one phone call when you showed up, said, hey, I'm alive. And then the next phone call was like, hey, this is when I'm graduating. That's it. There was no communication with your family. This kid, like, had never left home, never left his mother's side. So he flipped out and fucking broke a bunch of shit in the fucking bathroom. Right. So they locked him up. So my job was to fucking babysit this kid, make sure he fucking went and ate and everything else. And I fucking hated him. I hated him because he was fucking weak I hated him because I had to stand there like sleep deprived and everything else. I had to make sure he fucking brushed his teeth, and I went down to the fucking chow hall, and we're sitting there eating in all squares, right?
Mm-hmm.
And fucking everyone else is sitting in all squares, and he's just eating like normal, looks like a bag of shit. I'm like, I want this motherfucker to die. I was like, oh, I hate you. But yeah, how did that start?
It's the question, like, what to tell his kid as he's preparing for boot camp.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is don't sweat the small stuff. You know, I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say,
but pay attention to the details.
Yes. And at the end of the day, they're not trying to kick you out. They want you to pass. The biggest punishment that you can really get is being washed back and having to repeat a week. Now, that was the thing that I was always the most afraid of back when I was in basic training, was getting washed back, because any more time there than I had to fucking be sounded like a nightmare. So I did everything as best as I could, worked as hard as I could. Oh shit. Because I didn't want to repeat a week at all. I had to get the fuck out of there after the 6 weeks, or I was going to lose my goddamn mind.
And what's funny too is like, all right, I know Bronco Fett is probably on 6 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And it was 6 weeks. It was not, regardless of whatever branch you go in, right? And I'm not just saying this because I'm Air Force and I'm fucking soft, right? Regardless whatever branch you go into, there is a part of the process, especially early on, where it's like, we're going to hammer you down to your fucking most basic level, and then start to build you up.
Yeah.
And it's that willingness to fucking be malleable and be flexible, like in any service.
Yep.
Like, you have to be willing to get yourself broken down to the most basic level. And the sooner you realize that, the easier time you're going to have. Because it's not like, I can't believe this fucker's telling me to do this. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this the best I can possibly do it. And if you have that mentality, regardless of what branch you're in, you're going to have success.
Yep.
But if you go into it with the mindset of like, I'm not going to get yelled at, or, you know, that's what you're worried about, is like how you're going to react. The biggest laugh ever that I hear is people like, oh, I would have punched that fucking TI out. Let me tell you something. My TI, right? Staff Sergeant Habeck, the dude was fucking shorter than you, right? He had the campaign hat on, right, with the fucking blue ropes. And the motherfucker, like, I got yelled at one time. He's standing there like this. The fucking hat is sitting on the brim of my fucking nose, and all I see is his fucking mouth. Right? And I'm like, I could have very easily, all I had to do is extend my arms and push this motherfucker away from me. Do you think even I had that fucking thought for a second? No, because this is the same guy who my job was the supply room. Right? I made the mistake of saying like, yeah, I worked at a fucking Woolworth. Like, oh, great. You're going to manage the supply closet. Fuck. Don't do the supply closet. It's the fucking worst.
Yeah.
I got an entire yearbook of people telling me to calm the fuck down and not be so fucking nuts, because that's where I was, in the supply room. Go figure.
Right.
But this guy, we ran out of fucking toilet paper. It's January in fucking Texas. They had an ice storm. Everything fucking shut down. You know, it was the apocalypse, and people, they were getting sick, runny noses. They fucking shot us with all this fucking bullshit. Everyone's getting sick, and they're using my fucking toilet paper
to like blow their nose.
So I kept running out. So I'd have to go down to the supply room and fucking request it. So the supply people said something to Habeck.
Oh shit!
He fucking gets in. I don't know if they still have it, but you remember the box on the wall? Did you guys have the box?
What?
You did, Disneyland motherfucker. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
Had a box on the wall where they would fucking call you, right? And like, it was basically, you had to treat the box like it was an actual TI standing there, and it was like an intercom system.
Huh?
Yeah. No, dude. House of Pain. We lived and died by the box. You'd hear it, like, you'd have to be dead silent. Like, you'd be cleaning the floor, and you hear like click, and you'd be like, oh, the box is on. Shh. You know, hand signals only at that point. It was fucking crazy. So anyway, the fucking Habeck gets on the box, and he's fucking screaming my name to come downstairs and report to him in the fucking gym, right? So I get down there. This motherfucker decides that, and I know it was to intimidate me, right?
Sure.
This dude, again, that fucking big, built like a brick shithouse, though. And he's fucking on the incline bench. I'll never fucking forget this. He's on the incline bench with what looked to me like a half a dozen plates on each side.
Yeah.
A half dozen 45s. And he's grunting out these fucking sets on the bench, screaming at me about the fucking toilet paper, right? I'm looking at this dude. He's like all red in the face, spit flying everywhere. I'm like, these motherfuckers are never going to wipe their ass again. Like, I'm not fucking dealing with this motherfucker. So anyway, I started that by saying, like, you hear all these people say, oh, I'm a badass. I'm going to fucking, no, you're not. No, you're not. And if you are going to be that guy, you're going to get beat up. They're going to remove you. Because that's all right. You're that big of a badass. Well, badasses know how to fucking control it, right? Dave temper aside, right? Even I managed to fucking, put my tail between my legs and fucking realize that, like, yeah, I'm fucking, I need to listen to this motherfucker. And I think the whole thing starts with being flexible. Don't fucking go in there thinking that you're a badass.
Yeah.
Like, just fucking go there, realize that, hey, their job is to bring everybody to the same level and build you up.
Right.
And any task that you get, no matter how menial it is, there's a reason for it. Even if that reason is just to fuck with you, there's a reason they're fucking with you. And again, I think that's universal. It's across the board.
Yeah. And it's a very, very, very short time frame for your much longer career.
Yep. And you're going to make a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in basic, you're going to make a mistake, and you learn from it.
Yeah.
You learn from those mistakes.
So here's one. So I got picked to be not the chow runner. The chow runners were the two guys that went in ahead, and I don't know. They did something. I was the guy that walked up to the snake pit every fucking morning and said, went right to the front. The guy sitting in the middle had to fucking stand at attention and wait for him to address me, which was normally, what do you want?
Yeah.
And, I had to give my reporting statement. Sir, Airman Roskam reports as ordered. Sir, flight 141 is prepared to enter the dining hall. Right. And he's like, get their asses in here or whatever. He'd yell at me the whole time. But, I was chosen to do that because I could do the statement every time.
Right.
With the poise, not let this dude being an asshole on the other side get to me.
Right.
And, we got into the chow hall and did everything else. Something fucking happened like week 4. Right. I walk up and, the statement is supposed to be, Sir, Airman Roskam reports as ordered. Sir, flight 141 is ready to enter the dining hall. For some reason, I was like, Sir, Airman Roskam is ready to enter the dining hall. And they're like, everybody hear this. Airman Roskam's ready to enter the dining hall. I'm so glad that you let us know. And I'm like, fuck. So, yeah, that, doing it every single day, like 3 times a day, for 4 weeks, and you can still fucking slip up at one point, and they're going to give you shit for it.
Oh,
There's nothing you can do.
So I'm going to tell this story. My roommate in tech school, his name was John McDonald. I'm calling him out, right? He was in my basic training flight. He was the oldest guy in my basic training flight, right? He was like right at 39.99 years old.
Jesus.
Yeah. So he was the oldest guy in the flight.
A 40-year-old in basic fucking training.
Yeah.
God damn.
So, and this, like, the problem, I can't imagine, like, being at that age because you've lived your whole life to a certain, like, this is how I walk. This is how I interact with people, right? There's a bit of muscle memory that's really, really tough to fucking shut off when you get into basic training. And he cannot keep his head still. Like, his head would always fucking, like, he'd be in formation and his fucking head would be doing like this, right? And so, like I was talking about the Alert 5 with the door guard, right? Well, one afternoon, he was doing door guard, and they came up and they fucked with him at the door, and he let in somebody he wasn't supposed to, right? All hell breaks loose. Fucking Hobbeck's pissed. We're all fucked. It was just one of those things. So that night, at chow, right, we're sitting there eating, and McDonald's at my table, right, and we're eating in our all squares, and you can hear the snake pit getting themselves all fired up for something, right? And so Hobbeck says, Airman McDonald, right? So John stands up, Doesn't say anything. Like as soon as you're fucking you're supposed to acknowledge your reporting statement, right? Nope, nothing. Heads bobbing around, right? And then finally, like, goads him into fucking giving a reporting statement. Aaron McDonald reports as ordered. I loved him. Great fucking guy, but dude, I don't know how he made it through basic. I really don't. So Hobbick's like, repeat after me. I will not do dorm guard in dorm V5 again, right? And then he doesn't say anything. It's like, Aaron McDonald, repeat after me. Everyone's dead silent. We can't even eat. Like, we're like, what is happening right now? Right? So it's like, Aaron McDonald, or no, I will not do dorm guard in dorm B5 again because I am a shitbag. Right? And we're all sitting there. He doesn't respond. Say it. Because I am a shitbag. Eat faster. Must eat faster because I'm going to fucking laugh my tits off, right? Snake pit goes wild, right? But now that's John's shitbag for the rest of the fucking time, right? Because you get called shitbag in front of everybody, then now it becomes obvious.
Right.
And so, yeah, he ends up being my fucking roommate in tech school, which was perfect. You know, I was 21, you know, he was older too. And it just worked out. He's a great guy. We still on Facebook and everything else. But yeah, they're brutal. They will find something about you and they'll pick at it. They'll pick at it. Like for me, it was my temper. They were constantly picking at my temper, trying to fucking get me to go off. And that's like, you start learning control. You start learning how to be obedient, you know, and understanding, again, pay attention to the details, right? You, generally speaking, don't be the guy that's being called out for everything. Hope to God that you're not the tallest person, right? Because the tall people end up being fucking like element leaders and shit like that.
Yep.
Like, now you want to be average height or less.
Yes,
because then they can't see you fucking up your marching, unless your head's bobbing around like this. Yeah, that's it. That's we spent a lot of time talking about BMT.
Yeah,
I got a lot of good.
You're gonna have so many funny stories like this too when you get out.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to suck while you're going through it, but after the fact, it's going to be fucking hilarious.
It's supposed to suck.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be different. It's supposed to take you out of your comfort zone. And if it doesn't, great. But I think you might have missed it. You might have missed the point. Oh, and go to church every Sunday.
Yes.
I don't care if you're an atheist, do whatever. Like, it is the one time you're going to actually get a reprieve from the shit storm that is always constantly present. Go to church. Use that as the opportunity to fucking write letters and do stuff, because I think the military is one of the few places that still actually writes letters. Although in this day and age, who knows? They might let you go to get your phone time for whatever.
I think they do, actually. I think the kids that go now, they can take their cell phones and they get cell phone time, which like
not gonna say
the
it.
whole concept of that. It's like,
not gonna say it.
Fucking kidding me. So I think this is actually a good time to take a break and recharge because I need to pee.
Right.
And we'll continue with our post basic training careers and AMA questions. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. That being said, we will be right back after this word from our sponsors.
Yeah. If you're listening, go to fucking church, man. It doesn't matter. You could be a fucking pagan, a Wiccan, which is an official one now, I think.
Is it?
Yeah. It was when we were fucking. It was one of the things. Anyway, doesn't matter. Whatever the fuck it is, go. Like big Bronco Fett said, you get your candy, sneak letters out. Yeah, it was. I volunteered like every time like they needed somebody to go march the fucking the baby flights to church. I'd volunteer to go every time because it got me extra time out of the fucking shit show. Yeah. Talia, good night. Thanks for playing. We got more good stuff coming. So apparently there's a line of storms hitting the northeast of PA. Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect us or the show. We really should have battery backups in here, honestly. Does it look like it's going to storm out there?
It looks a little overcast, but I don't think it looks like it's going to rain.
Why is my radar not populating?
It's a very hazy
Oh, yeah.
overcast, but I mean, nothing right now. I know the Pennsylvania folks are about to get the shit kicked out of them.
Yeah. See how that's kind of sliding this way?
Is it?
Yeah. We might get the back half of that.
Well, pee now. Or forever hold your peace. Oh my God. So, I'm drinking from the Stone Brewing Company the Buenavenza Salt and Lime Lager. Buenavenza Salt and Lime Lager. Little Day of the Dead kind of vibe going on. It's I don't think it says it on the can, but on the box it says imported from San Diego. But the Salt Brewing Company, I had one of their beers when we were in Vegas last month or a month and a half ago. Fuck, I don't remember when that was now. But yeah, I had their Tropic of Thunder.
Tropic Thunder, like the movie?
Well, the beer was called Tropic of Thunder. It was like the best beer I'd ever had in my life. And I tried to find some after we got back, and apparently it was discontinued. I'm like, fuck you. Because that's my luck.
Goddamn cancel culture.
Oh, and Nick said he had the same gig in the Chow Hall. What was that called? It had a name. I can't remember what it was, though. It wasn't the Chow Runners, because the Chow Runners were those two other little fucks that ran ahead.
Yeah. But usually they were the fat fucks.
Yeah. But no, it was like the Chow Monitor or something like that. God, I can't remember what the name of that was.
I can't either.
Is it in your book?
No, they didn't list like the fucking jobs. Yeah, dude. I brought this just for like it's funny too. Did you get this?
Mm-hmm. I don't know where mine is. I think my mom has all that shit.
This was like most of it is just generic fucking shit, and then there's like a lot of pictures of people getting their heads shaved.
Yeah.
I remember some of these specifically. Sitting there in our fucking M16. This is how you take apart the M16 class.
Oh yeah. God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, there was the
couple of days out in the out at the range.
Storm Guard, Durham B5, man, help you.
All right, we're ready to get back to it.
Yes.
We'll get into Dragon Buddy's question next. I really actually like his question. It's kind of skipping ahead in the timeline, but I think it's a good question. And then we can kind of talk about our AFSCs and everything.
Yeah. We'll do 30 seconds.
See.
3PO. End it.
And we're back.
We got to address this before.
Oh yeah, Bronco Fett made a hilarious comment in the chat while we were on break, asking if we got the birth control glasses.
Well, so we call them the BCGs.
Yeah, well, that's what they're called. It's like there's a name for it, but the BCGs, it's that standard issue military glasses with the thick brown frames,
right? Which, like, what's really funny is that tortoiseshell frame suddenly became like actually like stylish.
Yeah.
Like, so that, of course they stopped giving that one out. Now they give these black frames. But I didn't wear glasses when I was initially.
I was the same boat. Yeah, I didn't start wearing glasses until like 2001, 2002.
Yeah, so I didn't have to suffer through the birth control goggles.
Yeah,
but yeah, they were pretty horrific. I'm not gonna lie. There was a reason that name fit. So anyway,
yeah. So we had a good question from Dragon Buddy. I really like this one because he asked, what are your job titles and job descriptions? Is this something that you enjoy doing, or do you trudge through the day until it's over? So there's a whole bunch of ways we can unpack this. Like, first of all, let's talk about all of the different jobs that we had throughout our Air Force career. So we both started off maintenance, right?
Yep.
We did aircraft maintenance, avionics for the first several years of our career. Then I eventually went over to be a boom operator because, quite frankly, I hated maintenance. hated it from the moment I joined. I wasn't good at it. I didn't like it. It wasn't my calling, right? I enjoyed the Air Force lifestyle. I still enjoyed being in, but I needed a different job. And I just so happened to see an advertisement in our local the newsletter that our wing puts out that said, hey, we're looking for more boom operators. Are you interested? And I'm like, why, yes, I am. And boom operators are in the refueling aircraft.
I should have brought models. Oh, man.
More visual aids.
God damn it.
That would have been just for the YouTube audience anyway. But the air refuelers, the guys that have a shitload of gas, big pole comes out of the back, connects to another aircraft mid-flight, and transfers fuel to them. The guy in the back that controls that pole, that's the boom operator. And I crossed over into that job. And I got to say, for me, to this day, that's still the most job satisfaction I've ever had with any job in the military or otherwise. Like, I got the most enjoyment and the most job satisfaction out of doing that job, because for me, that was most related to the mission that we were actually doing.
Right.
I wasn't supporting anybody's mission. I wasn't anything else. That whole mission was to get that fucking boom to that other fucking aircraft and transfer that fuel. That was the whole point of that whole wing that we were in.
Yeah, it's a very like visceral thing. Like I get to actually physically touch this and make this happen for the mission.
Yeah, and in the Air Force, that's the only enlisted position that is allowed to basically have control over a part of the aircraft, like control a quote unquote flight control on an aircraft. Like, everything else is done by the pilots, who are all officers, and we'll get into officers later. I think we have a question about them.
Yeah.
So, and then I moved over from that because we had what they call the BRAC, base realignment and closure, and they took away a shitload of our airplanes. And since I was a fairly new boom operator, they're like, sorry, kid, your job's going away when we lose all these aircraft. So the unit that you were in at the time just so happened to have a bunch of openings, just as a lot of us boom operators were losing our fucking jobs. So, and what was that career?
That was initially it was as an airborne communications and electronics specialist, otherwise known for our weapon system as a radio operator.
Right.
So is this where you want me to start?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
chime in on that. Like, how you transferred from maintenance over to that and what that job somewhat entailed.
Yeah. So I came in the Air National Guard. See, so when I came in, like, into the maintenance career field, I have a mechanical background, right? Maintenance, actually, I was complete opposite. Maintenance actually was a really good fit for me because I was good at taking shit apart, putting it back together, figuring things out, fixing things. I like fixing things. It's very Anakin Skywalker-ish,
Yeah. Do you like sand?
We're not going to talk about that. So the flight engineers control all flight controls, in the KC-10.
Sure they do.
Anyway, so yeah, so I love maintenance, and when I got in, like, went through the initial training and everything else, like, I was really, really good at it. And once I started, like, so in the Guard, you like kind of came back, you went into this like seasoning time where they put you on orders and you were able to go out and work with the full timers to kind of learn your job.
Sure.
So that, like, you'd actually be useful for something. Because one thing the Air Force does is that they break it down into levels, like 3, 5, and 7 level for maintainers. And when you're coming out of school, you're a 3 level. You're an apprentice, right? You have information in your brain, but don't really know how to fucking convert it into something useful. Yeah. So you have supervision whenever you go and do stuff, and then you get better and better, and you work up your way up to a 5 level where you can actually do stuff by yourself. And there's all these levels to that too. So I found that I really enjoyed it, and I liked being with the full timers. I liked the shop. I got along real well with those guys. I played softball with them. And at the time I was still a part-timer, I was working at CompuCom at the moment. And so, but I really liked being around airplanes again. Working at CompuCom just really didn't sit well with me. And that's not what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be able to, like, build something besides computers. So being out there on the flight line, and plus those guys had it fucking made, right? I would be out there. I'd be there on orders, right? And the full timers, we'd go out there and you do what this thing you call work a red ball. And airplanes were getting ready to go take off for their morning launches, right? So you go drive out to the flight line, sit there and wait to see if an airplane had an issue. And if they had an issue, they're like, Dave, go up there and fix it. Like, and I'd go up there and fucking all bright eyed and bushy tailed. And like, how can I help? What can I do to make this better? Right. And fix things, not being the jaded person yet. Meanwhile, the rest of those guys sat in the truck. And I'd come back and fucking be like, I can't sign this off. And we're like, okay, go and sign the shit off. And then we sit there in the truck and we wait. And then they're like, okay, all the airplanes took off. Now let's go get lunch. So we went and got lunch. And at the time, this is the 90s, there was like 3 beer lunches.
That's right.
So they were still drinking at lunchtime. It was still okay. Yeah. And then we come back from lunch and fucking take a nap. We'd be in the truck taking a nap, waiting for fucking, either get called out by the maintenance super or whoever to go work a fucking job. And I'm like sitting there listening to these guys complain about their jobs when I'm there I'm basically on vacation from this fucking job with 5 different bosses like they're fucking driving me into the ground. I'm like, dude, you guys, this is the shit, man. Mm-hmm. So I was interested in applying for a full-time job doing that. And I took as much orders as they would give me.
Yep.
And that translated into getting the job into the unit, we'll call it, just for ease of talking about it.
Yeah.
But at the time, that unit had the same airplane that the rest of the guard had, was the 135, and they hired me on as an active guard and reservist.
Yep.
Which basically meant that as opposed to a technician, they have state and federal paid technicians, and they had their wage grade and everything else, but they weren't active duty military. So they didn't get the rights and benefits to that, which was good and it's bad. At the time, the WGs or the GSs were making more money doing that job than the active duty people were. Now, again, this is the 90s, right? This is the mid 90s. Mm-hmm. So active duty wasn't paying out the same way as the WGs were. But then come to find out, like as we get going along at post 9/11, that being active duty and the amount of benefits you got from doing that up to include the post 9/11 GI Bill on a lot of these other opportunities, they were missing out.
Yeah,
as full timers.
Yeah, and we got a lot of good pay raises too in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
on the active duty side.
Yeah, so it was for me in 1999 when I got into the unit, and that's where I started my active duty career, basically. So my first, so many years was as a fresh-faced kid, or 21-year-old, coming into it, and then got that job as a maintainer in an airframe that had it was a different mission than what the 135 was doing.
Right.
And it was a lot of non-standard stuff, and it was actually pretty cool. I got to go with the airplane all the time. As maintainers, we had opportunities to do what's called a third wipe, right? Yep. Which is basically the guy who fucking chocked tires and fucking wiped down the landing gear when you landed. Mm-hmm. And you were there just in case something broke, but the crew chiefs did most of the heavy lifting on that. You were just along for a ride if you were lucky. But that's how you got to travel as a maintainer. So I basically went from not having an opportunity to now having an opportunity to fly all the time with the jet as a maintainer.
Yep.
And then fast forward to post 9/11, right? We'll just fast forward through a lot of that stuff, go post 9/11.
Yeah.
And then we went from this old 135. They're like, okay, we're going to upgrade. We're going to upgrade to this C-32.
Right, which is a modified 757.
Right. And the jump into that, originally I was going to be a maintainer on that airplane.
Right.
So I went to school at Boeing for let's rewind a little bit. How they made that announcement to us basically was like, hey, we're getting a new airplane. Cool. Who wants to go be a maintainer on it? I do. Okay, cool. Because honestly, for me, it was like, hey, get your A&P because it's more of a commercial airplane, there's experience and shit like that there. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
So I went to fucking Boeing for so many months. Come back from that, and they're like, yeah, oh, by the way, we're not going to have fucking blue suit maintainers anymore. So you can either become a radio operator or load master, or you can fucking take a walk.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll be a radio operator. Because I had an avionics background.
Yeah, and this was as an aircrew member. So this was going from being a maintainer on the ground for the most part, to being a full-fledged
airborne communication electronic specialist, or for what we were doing for intensive purposes was a radio operator.
Yeah,
and that was it. That was the beginning of being a radio operator in that mission. And we talked about job satisfaction. When I was a maintainer and when I was deployed, like one of my favorite citations is an achievement medal I got when I was deployed. Because that was when you talk about these things that I did directly contributed to what was going on, putting warheads on foreheads. Right. So that was probably the one that if I had to say, this is the one that's going to go on the wall, it's going to be that one. And it's Air Force Achievement Medal is not much. It was something that we had a huge part in that for that deployment.
Sure.
And then with the white airplane that you ended up coming into, I got the opportunity to be an initial cadre instructor, evaluator. They gave me a lot of responsibility because somebody else didn't want it. And I was like, I want that responsibility. Let me do it. And, with no aircrew background or anything else, I was able to really get a lot of traction because I wanted to give me this information, give me these problems to solve. I want to do this. And I can honestly say that my time as a radio operator, I loved it as a whole. I felt like I made a big difference as to what was going on with the mission. But the most important thing I did with that, I think, was the instructing.
Yeah.
Right. Becoming once you get in and become an aircrew member, there's advancement in that, right? There's basic aircrew member, and then you get a mission qualification, and then you can, further as you get more experience and gain hours, then you can, be selected to be an instructor.
Right.
And honestly, to me, that's the best job.
Yeah, because you're training new people to the jet, how to actually operate for this specific mission that we did.
Your entire life is about getting smarter on the airplane, and making other people smart on the airplane. And I loved it. I love that part of it. And I had good students. You were one of my students. John, Liam, students that went on to do fucking good things. Every one of my students made senior at least. The ones that I liked anyway.
And this leads to a question that Bronco Fed had. And it was basically he wanted to hear the story about how we met. Right. So, and this is kind of where our two paths start to cross, because I was doing the boom operator job on the KC-135s when we got bracked, lost my job. And, I had a full-time job at this point. I had almost three kids. My youngest son, Ben, was about to be born. And I'm like, I can't lose my full-time job. What the fuck am I going to do? And they're like, well, this unit with this white plane that does all the super secret shit, they've got 3 openings right now, so you should really be applying for these. I'm like, okay, I don't know a thing about it. I don't really want to leave the boom operator position because I like this, but at the same time, I need a fucking job.
Right.
So I guess this is what I have to do. And then I interview over there, and I get the job. And I actually remember the first time I ever met you. It was very brief. It was when we were still downstairs in the old building. And you were pretty sure you were Standaval at that point. And you go into the office, and then you had to turn left and go around because you had a cubicle that was kind of left and around the corner.
Yep.
And I remember, I think it was Tim Kennedy was taking me around the building and introducing me to everybody because he was my initial instructor. And he took me around, and he always referred to you as the kid. Right. This was Dave's nickname when I first joined the unit. He was the kid, which I always think of Prince's character from Purple Rain. He was called the Kid. I'm like, okay, I don't know where this name came from. Eventually they explained it to me, but I came around that corner to your cubicle, and we were introduced, and I immediately noticed you had some Lego shit and some Star Wars shit on your desk. I'm like, all right, this guy and I are gonna get along, because I can already tell he's got some pretty cool stuff. So
yeah, I liked having stuff on my desk, if not just to please me, but and if other people enjoyed it, so be it. But yeah, that office was an interesting office. Yeah. Because at the time it was me, Chuck, and Brad.
Yep.
And we were thick as thieves getting ourselves into and as many boondoggles as we could possibly do. And we had, I don't know if you remember, but in that same office we had the basketball net.
Oh yeah,
we had the basketball net that was over the testing room. We had fat heads on the walls. So
that I don't remember.
You don't remember the fat heads?
No.
So
because we were like, after I had joined the squadron, we were only in that downstairs area for a couple of months.
That's true. I don't think
we got moved back.
Yeah, because we went upstairs in Stanaval, we didn't have an area for the fat heads anymore, so they ended up coming down. But what we had in that office was people that did stupid shit, right? Like in the NFL, for example, people that would do stupid shit, like Terrell Owens when he was like going through all his bullshit, like doing sit-ups in his fucking yard and all that stupid shit. So he would get a fat head. So in our office, we put a fucking fat head on the wall. Like, yeah, see this fucking idiot? This is who you don't want to be. So we had this like display of fat heads, and Chuck was an Ohio State fan. Brad was a Florida fan. I'm the Penn State fan.
Yeah,
and we talk fucking every other day, in a group chat about random sports shit that comes up. And that was a good office to work. It was being in Stanaval was being an evaluator is kind of being at the top of the pecking order for what was, basically happening within the unit for making new radio operators,
right,
or loadmasters or whatever.
Now, and of course, in the beginning, like Dave and I didn't connect right away. It took a while. It took a long time for me to kind of warm up to anybody in that squadron, honestly, because I've been a pretty introverted person my whole life as it is. So when I go into a new situation like that, it takes me quite a while to warm up to people. And you particularly, I remember, and I think you'll admit this, you were kind of a know-it-all, you were the guy that always had to be the smartest guy in the room. And initially I was a little off-putting. I'm like, I don't know about this guy. And you talked a lot with your hands too. I remember all the time. I remember you were always the guy that talked with your hands.
Yes.
And I'd always thought that was kind of funny, but
yeah, unfortunately distracting when you're giving a lecture.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because, you did a lot of instructing for me as I was new into the position. So it was, I think it took a couple of years for us to kind of finally connect. And I think it wasn't until the Disney buyout of Lucasfilm and this whole reinvigoration of Star Wars that you and I were like talking more and more on a regular basis, and really kind of starting to connect and like get to know each other more than just like coworkers,
right?
And spending a lot of time on the road helps with that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, we did.
Yeah, one thing about being in that unit, we traveled a lot. One of the questions that's going to come up later is how many countries and stuff like that. But we traveled a lot, and at its peak, you would be gone from, the way I averaged it out over my career, that it was basically a week every month that you were gone, and then a week of alert.
Yep.
Which meant you were there, but not really there.
Right.
Like alert meant logistics and not being able to like do family stuff and not drink, and like you had to be cognizant of where you were at any given time and all this other stuff.
You were very restricted in your life.
Yes. And that was half of your month was that. So one of the things that, we're talking about deployments here later, but when I got into this unit, deployments came off the table because that unit doesn't deploy. That's not a deployable UTC. And but you sacrifice, okay, I'm not going to deploy, so I'm not going for months at a time, but at the same time, I'm going for weeks out of the month.
Yeah.
And
that wears on you. It really does.
It beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, and that's eventually what caused me to leave.
Right.
After doing that for about 9 years, I was worn the fuck out.
Yeah, especially because Dave broke. Dave got sick and broke, and Jason became an evaluator. Yeah, at that point, so he was picking up my workload. And yeah, it was not good. There's not very many radio operators. Like, this is a very exclusive club we belong to.
Yeah,
but
it also meant that when one or more people went down, the load fell on the rest of us.
Yeah,
and it wasn't just you that was down. We had other people that were habitually down for long periods of time.
I'm the one that felt bad about it.
Right. I don't think the other ones did.
It was like there was a really that interesting part of being like what was a special ops unit. You know, we got to wear the patch and we got to do special missions and all kinds of really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But the sacrifice and how much time you were gone, you know, I'd almost would rather at some point, like I watch these guys in the 10 right now and how they deploy. And even with their higher ops tempo, I'd almost rather have that than what we had, because really, really hard to like get hold of anything in your family when you're like constantly in this method of packing for the next trip or packing for alert, you know, and you're just in this constant cycle of you go to work every day. Let's talk about that for a second. Let's sidebar into what the Air Force day to day is like. People don't understand that what we do, we are like when we're active duty in the military. I'm going to keep referring to like I'm still in. Sorry, it's habit.
Yeah.
But we have fucking it's a day job.
Yeah.
Right. You have in the Air Force and in ops in particular, you have what it's called additional duties. Right. Additional duties. You can have anywhere from incredibly important additional duties, like being the fucking resource advisor, you know, doing approvals for travel vouchers, shit like that, making purchases. Fucking, you could be in the planning shop. You could run day-to-day operations. You could be in the fucking scheduling shop running that. You could be, you know, you do all this shit that requires all this fucking administrative work, over and above what you're doing as a fucking non-commissioned officer or senior non-commissioned officer in the fucking military. These are all jobs that you have to fucking put on your uniform and go and do every day.
Yeah.
It's not go PT in the morning, go sit around, pick your fucking nose, go PT again, and then fucking go home and go to sleep until you get on a fucking airplane and go somewhere.
Yeah.
That's not how the Air Force works. And especially if you're in operations, you're going to have a fucking day job.
Yeah, because there's a massive amount of overhead that goes into just having a squadron and running a squadron day to day. And it's not like just going out to the airplane every day and fucking flying or doing whatever.
Oh God.
Like
I know the people in the chat will agree that if the Air Force was just actually going and fucking aviating and going to fly in fucking airplanes, like nobody would leave.
Right.
Because that'd be like, oh, I'm going to go fly today. And you go fucking fly and come back and not have to worry about fucking performance reports or fucking, you know, all this additional duty bullshit.
And that applies to what I'm doing now, because after I left the position that I was in where we worked together, I went over to be a cybersecurity officer. And it's the exact same thing. If I was just doing cybersecurity all day, every day, I'd fucking love it.
Right.
But that's not what I do. That's a fraction. That's such a small percentage of what I do day to day. It's not even funny. It's what I do is administrative shit. These additional duties and everything else. That's 95% of my job.
Yeah.
Every single day when I go in. And getting back to Dragon Buddy's question, if, like Dave said, if I was going out there and I was doing cyber every day, if I was either training or doing practice cyber missions or whatever, it'd be fucking great.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely love it. But because most of my job is administrative shit, keeping the squadron up and running, I deal with it. Like he said, I basically trudge through the day until it's over.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It sucks that it's that way. I understand why to an extent, but this goes along with the doing more with less philosophy that the military has had since the late 90s, basically.
Yeah.
And it fucking sucks. And if anybody who's been in from either the late 90s or early 2000s to where it is now, you see the difference in the drawdown of the finance office and the personnel flight office and all that. And it's like doing more of the shit yourself or doing more shit at the squadron level and having less support around you to kind of help with those day-to-day.
Right. And then they push everything virtual because the idea of a paperless Air Force is really nice to talk about, but employing it actually requires like spending money and having people that are trained to that end.
Yeah.
And they don't train people in their support roles. Can we talk about the nonners for a second?
Sure.
So we're talking about people in support roles. We're not including maintenance and ops. Why? Because maintenance and ops aren't noners, right? Basically, like the ops has been known to call. I'm not saying that I did it, but ops has been known to call people that are in these support flights, like fucking finance and driving the SWAT truck or whatever, taking to call them noners because they're not necessarily directly involved with fucking making the mission happen, right? They're not turning a wrench on the airplane. They're not fucking out there giving gas.
They're support.
Yeah. And they suck at it. Like on any given day in the United States Air Force, even to this day, even in my position I'm in right now, I wonder if they flew airplanes, or if we flew airplanes the way that they fucking do their jobs, there'd be a smoking hole in the ground every fucking day. Because it's been pared down to something that like is not sustainable. It just isn't.
Right. And that's kind of been my thought process. It's like, if they keep going in this direction where they're constantly pulling back on resources, they're not giving us the funding we need, they're not giving us the personnel and the support that we need, it's going to become, what do you like to call it, a self-licking ice cream cone, to where it's just going to kind of spiral into this just fucking trash heap. They can't do anything. They can't function because they're so bogged down with all this administrative stuff that.
Yeah. So what's really funny is that my existence and my continued service in the United States Air Force is actually the benefit of a little bit of a rebound on that arc.
Right.
Because we got to a point where, oh, fuck, we can't have people that we want to deploy all the time being in charge of offices that have to have somebody there. So what do? They've actually brought contractors in. They got more civilians to come in as GSs and work in these administrative roles, which I mean, I'm not super crazy about doing all this admin work. I'm not going to lie. It has trudge factor. However, I'm retired.
Right.
This is like, I'm not going to go out there. I'm not going to be able to go out there and operate anymore. Like, that's not a thing. Like, and now I am fit to fucking fly a desk, like for reals, yo. And that is my lot in life until I can make enough money to retire for good. And I'm happy to have it. Don't get me wrong. And I'm glad that the Air Force is, at least in active duty, has made it an effort to be like, hey, we know these admin roles fucking are eating up a squadron. This is what General Goldfein was really important and really pivotal in making happen for the squadrons, like active duty squadrons. So like, hey, I hear what you're saying about being fucking basically weighed down with all this additional shit. Mm-hmm. Let's get civilians in there to fucking backfill, have that, maintain continuity and stuff like that. And it works.
Yeah. And I think that is definitely a step in the right direction. And I hope they continue with that.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And hopefully they don't shit candidates.
At least another 19 years.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully, some general or president or, Secretary of Defense comes in and be like, we don't need this program after all. We could just have them, handle it all internally in the squadron. And then we're back to where we were.
Yeah.
So hopefully that doesn't happen.
We'll see.
Getting back to some AMA questions. Caitlin Summer wanted to know, what is Lyft?
All right. So my daughter, who actually I just tried to call me, I didn't put her on the pod like I usually do, but
right.
So this is an inside joke with the kids, because I know things, right? And the kids would get me started on explaining something like a concept like Lyft, right? And start getting into way more detail. And therein lies the problem. Like when Dave gets going on something, sometimes a lot of extra detail that's not parsed down to my audience. This would happen with my kids when explaining Lyft. And they'd get me going on it, and then me taking way too long to realize that this is what they were trying to do, is to get me going.
Okay, so that is fucking hilarious. And that actually ties into some of my early days in the squadron together, because I don't know if I've told you this before or not, but one of the pieces of advice that some people gave me when I was about to go into my initial evaluation with you was, get him talking about something. Right. He'll get going and start talking a lot, and before you know it, the evaluation and the flight will be over.
Right.
And so that was like a piece of advice that somebody gave me when dealing with you.
That is a classic I think you can give that advice to anybody for any evaluator, like,
right,
especially for our type of job, because it's very information driven. So yeah, did you hear? So saying that, right? So they told you, all right, get Dave going on something, right?
Yeah.
So Liam Frank is going out on his this is his initial check, and we're out doing a walk around on the jet, and I'm asking questions about antennas and shit like that, and then he goes, "Oh, hey, stack dischargers. I know how many stack dischargers there are." I'm like, why would you offer this information? I'm like, okay, well, how many? And he gives me a number, and it's wrong. It's like way wrong.
Right.
I'm like, so you're wrong, really wrong. Like, who told you? I'm like, oh, they told me you would ask this question. So I wanted to have an answer. I'm like, all right, well, when we're going to get in the airplane, we're going to talk about, and I'm going to show him how many stack dischargers are. And it's kind of one of my early indications that people were trying to game the system.
Oh, okay.
Like, hey, ask this. He's going to ask this question because they're like, it's really tough as an evaluator, right? Especially when you have a sharp student to like, all right, you have to learn. You have to learn every check ride. If you're not learning something, you're doing it wrong.
Sure.
And so sometimes with the sharp student, you have to, pick at something a little bit. Like, all right, I know it happened with me, like, especially like when I was doing my instructor check rides that I was getting from headquarters. They'd come down there and holy fuck, I think I'd be in the clear, right? I'm friends with these guys, right? I drink with them and all this other stuff, right? I'm like, all right, I'm cool. Next thing I know, they're fucking digging at something on me. I'm like, fuck, I was doing so well. So yeah, I imparted a little bit of that on people, but I'd never because it was me and it was somebody else was standing there. I forget who it was. Oh no, it wasn't. I think Liam was standing there. It was Josh. What's his name? Remember Josh?
Oh, the guy who commissioned and then disappeared.
Yeah. I think it was his initial check.
Okay,
I forget. It was one of those fucking kids. But yeah, so that was like, all right, I see what's going on here. So yeah, the stack discharge question was fucking great.
All right. Good stuff. So Scott Rasmussen from the Used and Abused podcast asked, did your military careers become exactly what you expected when you joined? I mean, I think we've pretty much covered that they didn't.
No fucking way.
But I mean, honestly, my initial goal was do 4 years, get out, reap the college benefits, and hope that it kind of parlayed me into some sort of a better job on the outside. And that's initially what I had done. I did my 4 years in active duty and I separated. I actually got out and I moved back to California for like a year and a half, thinking like, oh yeah, post-military, I'll have some job experience. I'll hop into a good job.
Right.
No, it didn't happen. I was kind of floundering in California after I got back. And long story short, Kristen was with me. We got married while we were in California. And both of us were unhappy because we ended up in Northern California where I actually was able to make a decent amount of money. But then I was far from my family, like a 3.5 hour drive. She was across the country from her family. We were in this small little apartment alone by ourselves for a year. And it's like, well, fuck, this ain't working.
Right.
So a buddy of mine who was in the Air National Guard, he went right from active duty into the Air National Guard because I knew him from active duty. He's like, dude, come join the Guard, man. You get fucking the free state tuition. You can probably get whatever job you want. You can cross train, blah, blah, blah. And again, on a whim, not like anything I do, like very spontaneously.
Right.
I'm just like, fuck it. Let's just move back to Jersey and I'll join the Guard. And that's what I did. And that's how I ended up where I am today.
Yeah. It's funny how shit happens that way.
Yeah. So no, this did not pan out like I had imagined at all.
Not.
So, and it's even now as I'm getting towards my retirement, it's still nothing like I had planned 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Right.
So, and we'll get into that as we start talking about retirement and everything, which, well, I guess that's where we are. So you've been retired for 3 years now?
Yeah. I retired in February of 18.
Okay. And of course you were essentially forced into retirement due to medical issues.
Exactly.
So you weren't medically separated though, right? You were technically retired.
No, I medically retired.
Okay.
So I did not get my full active duty retirement.
Right. But I mean, you were like right fucking there. Yeah. So unfortunately, due to the litany of physical ailments that you've talked about over the years, you had to get the boot a little bit early.
Yeah.
Now, so here's my question for you, because I've always wondered this. Let's say your body didn't break down on you the way it did. Mm-hmm. Do you think you'd still be in right now? Even though you technically would have been long eligible to retire, do you think you would have stayed in past your 20?
Probably.
With things that, because a big thing for you was, and this is something we haven't really touched on, but when you get into promotions at higher enlisted ranks in the National Guard, right, where we are, a lot of it's a political game. Yep. A lot of it's, again, a position opens up. You have to apply for it. You have to interview for it. And a lot of the times you're competing against other people. You lost out on a promotion to somebody else who probably didn't deserve it. And you were kind of in a shitty situation at that point. And my question was, would you have stayed in longer to try to, potentially make that rank in the long run and retire as that? Or do you think you would have just been like, all right, I'm out?
Yeah, so it's a tough thing to call, right? Because I was posturing myself to get that promotion, right? To make E8. And one of the things that happened while I was trying to get there was I got the hernia injury, right? Because one of the big things was I was competing against somebody that could not like pass a legitimate PT test. I was like, I'll be good goddamned that I want to make sure that I have like excellent PT scores going into this board, and it ended up not mattering. And I got a sports hernia or an inguinal hernia, and which is fine, get surgery, do whatever. It was the recurrence of that hernia that like was pretty much the straw. Because the amount of nerve damage and everything else that happened when I re-injured myself was just fucking epic.
Right. And at this point, you and I were pretty close. And I remember hearing all the stories about the mesh they had to put in there and how that thing fucking malfunctioned.
The mesh tore apart. And, it was a shit show. But the timing of that was like, I turned down going to Florida twice.
Right.
Like I could have gotten down there. And I know I would have been the guy down there.
Yeah.
And I would have made rank. And I would have been postured a lot better because outside of where I was in New Jersey, like I had really good visibility with the people that mattered, like outside of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I had bad visibility, but I couldn't compete politically with a lot of these people because I was more concerned about actually fucking the mission and getting the job done.
Yeah.
And than I was about politicking and fucking, playing music at people's fucking retirements and shit like that. So that's where my focus was. And if I had taken those jobs and taken those opportunities to go down south, I would have flourished and probably had made the rank that I'm again talk about it earlier. Like I'm a relatively intelligent guy and I was really good at doing what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it could have been different, but that's one of those where, everything happens for a reason, if whatever the fucking reason is, I still don't really know. It is a thorn in my side, like how everything went down. But it's those trials and tribulations that make things better. I sitting at the same rank, doing the same job, like, and not getting med boarded, I probably would have got out.
Yeah.
Unless I made E8, I would have gotten out.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too, because we had regime changes after all of that happened. Yeah. And it was, people that you were much better aligned with who eventually took over the squadron, where, your chances for advancement were probably there. But Mike,
they definitely were, and that's all well and good, but I still, it's still beating that political horse and having to get in there and be that guy. It was like, we talk about retirement. My regret is that I took the job way too seriously. Like, you talk about retirement and like, what do you regret from your career?
Sure.
And I love all the accomplishments, and I know the things that I did to contribute, regardless of whether or not somebody decided to put me in for it or recognize it.
Right.
I know what impact I had. I knew the friendships I developed. And you can't take any of that away, because I knew where my value was. And I became really, really jaded to the fact that like, it's not going to be something that's going to like, I can't allow or myself to rely on other people's fucking like, okay, that person's doing a good job here. Like, let's recognize it. So you kind of, it got to a point where I was a master sergeant for fucking 11 years.
It's a long time.
And I was just knowing I missed that opportunity. And then med boarding and everything else was fucking horrific. And I don't even want to get into that, but yeah, you talk about, I would have stayed in.
Okay.
I would have stayed in for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Because again, like the whole point I was trying to make is if your body hadn't broken down the way it was, I feel like the opportunity was there moving forward for you to progress, even after having that small setback. Like there was still only up to go from where you were. And it was, it was a shame that
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. But hey, you talk about retirement and, get to your situation here in a second. But for me, retirement was okay, this happened. Like fucking, I had to fight for everything I got in retirement for the medical board. I had to get lawyers, and I had to go through a lot of fucking bullshit just to get to a point where I could say, okay, you're medically retired. You're going to have benefits for the rest of your life. You're not getting your full retirement. You're not getting concurrent receipt for all this other shit. We're going to shit in your mouth and fucking, pinch your nose while we're doing it. And then we're not going to pay you for 6 months.
I remember that too. I remember that being a really,
it was
shitty time.
Yeah. Times were tough. And thankfully I one of the guys we flew with fucking reached out and said, hey, here's a contracting job over with the, on the active duty side. Would you do it? I'm like, yeah, and interviewed while I was taking a shit and got the contracting game and got back into the matrix, which was probably the best thing for me because
you're in very familiar territory.
Yeah. It's different unit, different mindset, different mission.
But I think at the end of the day, because I can attribute to this, when you're in that operational world, there's still so much that's familiar about it.
Yeah.
And when you're into that world as much as we were, like for as long as we were, it's very familiar and it's very easy to fall into, even if it's a different weapon system, different mission.
Yeah.
And you said it, you were like the best at what you did. And I don't think anybody in our squadron would have ever questioned that.
Right.
Like you were the best, you knew the most out of anybody in our career field, like bar none. So, translating that into another airframe, even as a civilian contractor, it's still probably
it did. And, it's one of those stories that, here's the happy ending, right? Like all that work that I did and everything got me that job as a contractor. Right. And it got me into the unit, and they immediately appreciated my knowledge level and everything else. And when the opportunity came to get this GS job, like that commander went out on a limb and fucking hired a guy who is not a KC-10 guy.
Yep.
To fill this role that an officer would have been filling.
Mm-hmm.
And he took that chance, and I'm extremely grateful for it. And, I'm also, I got really lucky with getting into this unit too, because recognition like came immediately, and it was like overwhelming.
Well, and maybe that's that whole everything happens for a reason thing, right? That's maybe this was the end game.
This shit had to happen, in this way, because ultimately I wanted the GS job. I wanted to stay in aviation if I could.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the modus operandi for it. So now I just got to put my head down and don't want to retire as an 11. I want the next available, rank. Because it's the same. You still want to compete for rank and do all this other stuff.
Sure.
So I'm kind of trying to do the same thing. What about you? Are you ever going to retire?
I don't know, man. So we had this discussion offline. This was, I think, during the YouTube after show a couple weeks ago.
Right.
There's this fantastic scene in the movie Heat from, what was it, 97, 98, something like that. Val Kilmer, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. There's this scene where De Niro and Pacino are at a coffee shop.
Oh, yeah.
And they're talking, right? Yep. And, De Niro's he's the thief. He's the professional thief. Pacino's the cop. And they're having this back and forth. And Pacino asked him, he's like, so you never wanted a regular type life, huh? And they're having this back and forth. And he's like, hey, man, it's either this or we both better go do something else, pal. And Al Pacino goes, I don't know how to do anything else.
Right.
And that's exactly how I feel about my military career at this point. I don't know if I'd survive outside of this at this point. I feel like it's this or nothing. Like, I don't know if I could survive in the real world. I don't know how to do anything else but what I've been doing for these last 25 fucking years.
Yeah.
And, because I tried it once when I had that initial separation for a year, and it clearly didn't work. So I immediately gravitated back to the one thing that I fucking knew. And I don't know, man. I'm a senior master sergeant right now, E8. There's only one more rank that I can make as an enlisted person. That's like the pinnacle of enlisted rank.
Yeah.
And the opportunity is there. I mean, it's not a guarantee, but if I continue doing what I'm doing, continue to work hard, continue to put in the time and effort, that is very attainable for me, that last rank. It just requires more time. Like, legitimately, if I wanted to make that last rank and have the full time in it to get the full retirement for that rank, I'm looking at another 5 years.
Right.
That's a long fucking time.
It is a long time.
But as of right now, that's plan A. Plan A is to stay in for another 5 years, hopefully make Chief Master Sergeant, the highest enlisted rank possible.
Right.
And retire at that. And if I do that, then I'm retiring for fucking good. Like, that retirement pay, once all the kids are out of the fucking house, we're going to sell the house. We're going to go down to like a minimalist amount of living, and I'm not working anymore.
Right.
Like, I'm done because I'll have done my fucking time. I'll have done fucking 30 years at that point.
Right.
That's plan A. Plan B, if I feel like my mental state is going to deteriorate before then, which is altogether possible because of all of the stress and everything that we've talked about up to this point, plan B is 2 more years and retire, because I have some plans to kind of pay off the last of our debts and everything over the next 2 years, and to get us in a good financial state to where if I do retire only at my current rank and I do still have to keep working, we'll be all right.
Yeah, because that's what it is, right? There's a conversation to be had here about like joining the military and making it a career, which obviously we chose to do, right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a choice from the beginning, but eventually it got to the point where it's like, well, fuck, I've done this for 10 years. I might as well stay for another 10.
Yeah. And honestly, like, you get to that 10-year point or a 15-year point, it's like, okay, now I'm going to stay. We have the benefit of having a retirement system that's going to pay us a pension.
Yeah.
And we get healthcare up until, Social Security takes over, or Medicare or whatever. And that's amazing. Like, it is an amazing benefit. It is the reason, honestly, to get to the finish line, at any point, even if you can make more money on the outside, you're never like, it's free real estate. Now it's free money.
Yeah.
Right. You've done all that time so that you could basically get paid better than minimum wage without doing anything.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for having that fallback. And knowing that if I dial everything back and don't have kids to put through college and everything else, and like dial everything back, no car payment, no anything else, I could survive.
Yeah.
And not both people, both me and Kathy don't have to work. And like, okay, that's a nice place to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, obviously not where we want to be.
Right. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, there's a quality of life that we want to maintain. Right.
Of course.
So, but
you have to have the sacred Jedi pups.
Right. Exactly. Look at them. They're not getting more, by the way. They obviously have not increased.
It's an illusion.
It is. It's an optical illusion. But yeah, like those guys that are, older, people that probably enlisted in the early 2000s that are still at the benefit of this system, ride it out, especially in the current economy. Get to that mark where you say, okay, no matter what, I'm getting this pension. I have health insurance, without even the conversation about the VA and all the other stuff. Like, this is what the Eagle's going to shit on me twice a month. Right. And it's going to be like this until I'm dead. It's raining.
Yeah.
And it's a really good, stable position. Right. The other side of that is, if you're in the military right now and you're like, oh, I'm going to do 6 years and get out. Like, okay, cool. Have a plan.
Yes.
Have a plan.
Like a very distinct, definitive plan.
Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go work in my parents' company or whatever until I get on my feet and do this. I'm going to finish school. Like, don't have it written on a fucking napkin that this is what I'm going to do and go willy-nilly into it. You need to have a plan.
Yeah, and start implementing it before you get out.
Yes.
Too. Like, don't be like, I'll do my 6 years. Once I'm out, then I start playing in the college and everything else. No. Get that ball rolling well ahead of time.
Yeah, one thing I learned is it's 5 years. Make a plan for what you're going to be 5 years from now, regardless of whatever it is. So I started at my 15-year mark, not knowing that I'm going to have to get forced out with the med board. But this is where we wanted to be. Like, if I get out at my 20, this is what jobs I'm going to be looking for. This is where I'm going to be with my degree. All this stuff. Like, having those things and like, okay, what do we need to do to get to this point?
Yeah.
Like, in our 5-year plan, we had renovations to the house that were planned so that we could sell and get the fuck out of New Jersey. We had all this stuff to build into it, and obviously plans change.
Yeah.
But you need to
at least need to have a plan.
You need to have a plan. There's guys that are fresh in right now. They're like, oh my God, fucking 5 years of this bullshit. They're in a 6-year enlistment. They're like, they can't wait to get out. Like, okay, you can't wait to get out. Have a fucking plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. So we've still got a bunch of AMA questions to get to.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's get to these. So we have from Airwolf Years, what is your best and worst MRE menu? So MREs, meals ready to eat, are the meals that come in a fucking box. And I mean, I don't know if I can say a best. I can remember a couple of things. I can remember there being a ham and potato MRE that I remember always tasted really good. And I remember the fucking crackers with the little cheese packets. But the jalapeno cheese.
It had to be jalapeno cheese.
Because the regular cheese was kind of bland. But if you got the fucking jalapeno cheese, that was the shit.
Jalapeno cheese was currency. Like, you can trade jalapeno cheese for fucking other shit, like candy or a Snickers bar or something like that. Like, jalapeno cheese was fucking valuable.
Yeah.
And it was good.
Oh, yeah. It was really
straight
good.
Away. Like, what?
There were times where I just, right into the mouth. So, worst. So, here's the thing. Well, first of all, anything that had eggs in it was awful.
Yeah, no way.
But my very first deployment went to Oman.
Okay.
Back in the late 90s, there was a period of time, though we were at relative peace, we were 5-6 years removed from the Gulf War. As part of the end of the Gulf War, the agreement was that these UN weapons inspectors would constantly go into Iraq and they'd be looking for weapons of mass destruction, right? And, every 6 months or so, Saddam Hussein would get pissed. He'd get a bug up his ass and he'd kick the weapons inspectors out of Iraq.
Right.
Like, get the fuck out of my country. And then, of course, the U.S. would have to build up fucking forces and, beat our chest a little bit. And I got deployed on one of these. We went to this place in Oman that had no presence whatsoever. It was a runway and desert. And we basically had to build up this fucking base from nothing. We built all the initial fucking tents that were there. We had nothing but MREs to eat for like the first 2 weeks that we were there. After about a week and a half, I was ready to kill somebody if I had to eat another fucking MRE. I don't care what flavor it was. I don't care if it was the jalapeno cheese. I was so fucking sick of MREs at this point. So that is my worst MRE story, like having to eat them for 2 straight fucking weeks. No other meal whatsoever mixed in. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. MREs in the fucking desert.
Yeah, fuck all that.
Yeah.
Jalapeno cheese, anything with the jalapeno cheese in it was good. And peanut butter crackers, like making peanut butter crackers.
Yeah.
Was always good. Like the hot meal, there was anything to really fucking set my hair on fire. In the chat, Big Sweet brings up the 4 Fingers of Death. It has that name for a reason. Like it goes through your system so fast. It basically you're shitting out the fucking whatever the sausage was packed in.
Yeah,
like it was so awful that honestly most of the hot meals I probably would avoid and just ate what I had to eat.
Yeah.
There's only been a handful of situations where I was actually like MRE only. Probably the longest stint of MRE only was the shelter. The hurricane shelter.
Oh yeah, and even though that was only a few days.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad at all. I mean, I guess I've had a couple opportunities but it was never like that.
Yeah.
I had a pretty spoiled Air Force life when it came to like stuff like that where there was a couple situations where the MREs were a better alternative than the fucking shithole that we were in. Like I'd rather go on the jet and fucking eat an MRE than fucking eat another piece of fucking cow meat.
Yeah,
goat meat.
All right, so this one's a little bit generic from Owen Rizzo. What are your most memorable experiences? Now, we didn't touch on this when we were talking about our radio operator jobs,
right?
But I feel like the big thing that I took out of that experience of the 9 years that I did on the White Jet was all of the places that we went.
Yeah,
because for somebody like me who came from fucking Podunk, Hicktown, California, who had never left the state but twice in his life before he joined the Air Force, and then joining this squadron and getting to see the entire world multiple times over, that was one of the most rewarding experiences for me, and one of the like just best overall experiences, getting to see these places I never would have seen.
Yeah.
Even in any other squadron in the Air Force, because
right.
we were very unique in what we did and where we went.
Yep.
Seeing places like Malaysia and Indonesia, those two really stick out in my mind. Thailand, Cambodia, a lot of these fucking kind of out of the way exotic places that most people don't go to.
Right.
Going to those places and seeing some of that shit, it was mind blowing. It was just, it was one of the most memorable experiences being in that squadron and seeing so many different cool places like that. Going out to fucking these random Pacific islands that most people don't go to, going out to fucking the Marshall Islands,
right.
Which even though there's not much there on the island that we went to, it's really fucking cool being on this small fucking island in the middle of the Pacific.
Yeah.
And
those approaches going into those islands, like where you're just over clear blue Pacific and all of a sudden there's fucking a runway jumps out at you.
Yeah.
And that, you have places like Pago Pago where the ocean water is splashing onto the fucking runway. Like it's that close.
Mm-hmm.
We were really, really fortunate. And I would agree with you. It was the best, honestly, hands down. It's the best job in the Air Force because you're getting to be active duty. You don't have the looming, I've got dwell, I've got orders I'm worried about getting. I'm gonna have to go to fucking, do a tour at fucking headquarters. Like, because of the construct that it's there, like your active duty, you get all that benefit. And you also have stability where you're going to homestead. And then, by the way, we're not going to deploy you. We're going to fly the fuck out of you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the drawback. Like you might miss a birthday, but you'll be home the week after.
Right. And I missed a lot of birthdays. I had missed a lot of anniversaries. I missed so many fucking Valentine's days. Like, don't even ask Kristen about that. I've missed more Valentine's days than I've been home for.
Yeah. The shit doesn't, it doesn't, it can, if you don't have good fucking family support, it can get broken really, really easily. But yeah, it going around the world, flying on one trip, going around the world,
like literally around the world,
and fucking around the world in fucking 5 days one time,
and those are some ball busters.
You get your dick kicked in? Absolutely you do. It's hard on you. It's hard on your body, especially when you're fucking drinking. In my younger days when I was drinking a lot, it's hard on you. But yeah, it's very rewarding. Going to like fucking Angkor Wat, like being in Cambodia, and then getting an opportunity to fucking fly on this little fucking rinky. Oh my God, dude.
Which, by the way, I opted out of that because when somebody said, yeah, you have to fly on a local Cambodian airliner, I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck how many wonders of the world this is.
Fucking
I'm out.
Flying in the rainy season, right? So it's fucking, the weather's dog shit. Like Cambodia is like flooded. Mm-hmm. You're flying into this out in the, like literally Angkor Wat's in the middle of nowhere. Go fucking, Google Angkor Wat.
Yep.
And terrifying flight. It was a terrifying flight. I'm not going to lie. Mm. And we get there and it's just like, holy fuck, look at where I am in the world right now. Right. Climbing over these fucking, these structures that have been here, these ancient structures. I've been in the pyramids. I've been to Cairo. I've gotten to do the pyramids. I've got my picture taken in front of the fucking Sphinx. I've been in Roman cathedrals. I've been everywhere in Rome twice. I've been to Rome so many times that I like at one point just sitting down at a fucking cafe and relaxing is as good as going and fucking seeing some bullshit. Mm-hmm. And we had that benefit. It was like, okay, here we are. Let's fucking sit here, have a drink at this outdoor cafe and just like and appreciate where you are. Yeah, it was fucking fantastic.
Yep. So moving on, Leo Chavez asked, did either of us kill anyone? Just curious. So the closest, I guess, to that is, when I was a boom operator doing air refueling,
right?
Especially as we had wars going on, Iraqi freedom, enduring freedom, there would be points where fighters would pull up to the back of the refueler. I'd refuel them. They had their full missile load, right? Mm-hmm. Meet up with them again an hour or two later. They come up, their missiles are fucking gone.
Right.
And it's like, okay. Yeah. So not directly killing anybody, but right. Indirectly.
Yeah. There's something to be said for there's a reason that it's a combat sortie, right? Mm-hmm. You go out and you're doing these missions and you're part of the, for lack of a better term, you're part of the kill chain.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah. Did I ever get to fucking, trigger squeeze at somebody? No, but God damn it. There was enough times like in our mission where the situation dictated at a point where it's like, I genuinely feel like this is going to happen today.
Yeah.
Because some fucking skinny would be in the jet that was starting to create problems. And it's like, how do we not fucking shoot this person and create an international incident?
Mm-hmm. Try to de-escalate things.
Yes.
And
Dave's not good at de-escalating. Dave immediately jumps to what is the worst possible case scenario. Let's work from there.
Right. All right, so to something a little more lighthearted, Bronco Fett asked, we've heard mention of an incident where Dave was in survival training, right. and that is where the Hank Hill voice came from. He'd like to hear that. So that's not the origins of the Hank voice, but that's one of your more memorable Hank stories.
Yeah, so one of the things in survival school, this is, you're out in the woods, doing this shit out in the woods.
Yeah. And this is as air crew members, you basically have to go through this. So, you can survive if you get shot down or captured or whatever.
Basically, yeah. And a big part of it is like getting rolled up. It's like basically the enemy comes and gets you and they fucking herd you onto a fucking bus.
Yeah.
Which is what they did. And they put bags over your head. So, excuse me. This is what people don't understand. If you're going into the military and you're going to be air crew, you're going to have to go through survival school, right? Survival school is the realest shit that you're going to get.
It was good training. It
is the like, it is the most like, it is at that point where you think, there's like, they're not going to take it to this level. They can't possibly take it to this level. And then they take it to that level and then go further.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah, like, when somebody punches you in the gut and knocks the wind out of you, it's like, oh, I guess this is fucking real.
And then do it when you fucking keep talking and then they do it again. Yeah, it's fucking legit. Mm-hmm. So anyway, before I knew this, they bring you back in the woods and they put you in the bags on your head. And I was like in the backish part of the bus. And somebody was doing Milton on the bus, right? They were doing that. You have my stapler? You know, the stapler, right? And we all had bags on our heads. Nobody knew, like, we didn't really know where we were, right? So he's doing Milton, and then I start up with Hank, you know, in the back, like, what's going on? Where are we going? Like, can I get this bag off my head? Right? And just like going back and forth, and then, you know, you hear people laughing and everything else, and it was going for a good long time, good enough where I get stuck in the Hank voice. If I do it too long, it'll stick, and I have a tough time getting out of it. So, and we're not supposed to be talking at all, by the way. Like, yeah, they're like figuring out who it is. Next thing I know, right, I have this. It's a female, like, leaned into my ear. It's like, knock it the fuck off. Like, okay. Like, yeah, immediately the rest of the bus ride we were fucking quiet. But yeah, that was the easiest part of fucking survival school, honestly, was the bus ride to get to the next part, which was not the most comfortable fucking thing ever.
Yeah, which I don't know how much detail we can actually get into that.
Yeah, chicken or beef.
Yeah. So Keith Lehman asked, do either of you know John Walker or Phil Deffenbach? Both were at McGuire Air Force Base. So I fucking love this. From the moment I joined the Air Force, I would always get this. You know, you tell somebody you're in the Air Force, they're like, oh, my nephew's in the Air Force. He's in Michigan. His name's Bill. Do you know him? It's like, no. There's hundreds of thousands of people in the Air Force. No, I don't know fucking Bill from Michigan. I'm sorry.
Right. So saying that, I get the same thing. It's fucking like, oh, Air Force, blah, 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 blah. Or even cross services. Oh, my boyfriend's nephew's former roommate was a fucking Marine. Do you know him? No, I do not.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact. But you're super polite about it, because that's the one thing about, you know, being in the military. Like, you can't like really tell these people, like, you can't tell civilians, like, listen, you realize what a stupid question it is, right?
Right.
Now that I'm retired, I can kind of give that look like, do you really think? Now, saying that, Keith specifically asked, do either of you know a John Walker or Phil Deffenbach? Both from McGuire. I read John Walker. I'm like, John Walker, I knew a John Walker, right? So then we go in, and I'm trying to describe him to Jason. Jason's like, I don't know who the fuck you're talking about, right? So then I go into Facebook, right? Go into Facebook, and sure as shit, like, I'm shared friends with fucking a whole bunch of people from McGuire, and this John Walker pops up.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and then he shows me the picture. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that guy.
That guy. It's like, fuck. And what's really funny is, like, it is a really small Air Force. Like, case in point, our own Brady Levin, right? So they got those guys. The Galactic Refugee Caravan comes up for the 100th episode.
Yeah,
right?
Our Michigan guys.
Yeah, they come up, and I'm driving. We just done the Jersey thing. I think we had just left the fucking. We were heading towards fucking White Castle, or we just left White Castle. You know what? We weren't at White Castle yet. And we're just driving along, and I'm telling a story about a guy, an engineer in our squadron, right? In the squadron I'm working for now. And I'm describing this guy, and Brady's like, is his name Matt? I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, I was fucking stationed with him. And it, like, so completely the worlds merged, right? And I go to look, and we're both, we're friends with each other on fucking Facebook. It's like this like weird thing. And like, I'm like, how the fuck is that possible? Like, I had no affiliation with fucking like that squadron that he was in, or this guy. The fucking podcast, our only connection is the podcast and me being a contractor at this place, because I was still a contractor at the time. And yet somehow they knew each other. So it's fucking crazy sometimes how small the Air Force really is.
Yeah.
But that being said, 9 times out of 10 don't have any fucking clue who your cousin's roommate is in the Air Force. Sorry.
Yeah. But in this case, we actually knew John Walker.
We knew a John. It might not be the John Walker,
but we knew a John Walker.
We knew a John Walker. So more to follow on that.
Yep.
Fun fact, right? I don't know. I learned this in one of fucking some symposium I was sitting at. So you realize the entirety of the Air National Guard, like enlisted officers, full-time, part-time, everybody, could fit in Beaver Stadium.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Like the entirety of the Air National Guard can fit in Beaver Stadium. So that's like, it tells you that like, that's the Air National Guard, like not just New Jersey. That's the Air National Guard,
right? And that's
could fit into one high capacity stadium.
Huh?
That will tell you why sometimes our worlds are kind of small. That's
fair.
And if you're at, flying in a weapon system, like just being in ops, your worlds are a little bit smaller because you're a lot of times you're landing in the same spot. So yeah, it's funny how that works.
Yep. All right. So Big Swede asked, worst, dirtiest, most fucked up shit pit you ever deployed to. So I know exactly what my answer is for this. Bangladesh. I would not wish Bangladesh on my worst enemy. I've been there once. I'm like, this is the worst of humanity right here.
Yeah.
And I hope to never go back there for the rest of my life. And I hope no other human being ever has to go there for the rest of their life.
Bangladesh is bad.
Yeah.
It is. Not my spot. Chad is my spot.
Yeah, I've never been there.
Yeah, Chad's that place where it seems like, and no offense to our infamous Chad Vickers,
different Chad
is in the chat. No, this is the country in Africa of Chad that I've had the misfortune of being in, and it is awful. It's awful. Like the water's trying to kill you. Like it's just. I had a lot of bad experiences there. Chad's that place there where I fucking watched a dude take a shit underneath the airplane.
Oh, nice!
Like out the window, looking out of the radio station and looking out. Dude found this nice spot underneath the wing, nice shady spot underneath the wing, and fucking drops down. Mr. Softies it right on the fucking tarmac. I'm like, what the fuck? Go running up. Do you any of you see this? And he's like. No wiping, no nothing, just fucking like put one out there. I'm like, get me the fuck out of here.
So when we went to we spent 3 weeks in fucking Malawi, and the dudes were eating out of our fucking trash bags.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. Well, and we bore the benefit of being in a nice Chinese built fucking hotel that they abandoned because Malawi decided that anyway, there's a whole fucking background to that. Google Malawi, but that place wasn't actually that bad.
No, the hotel was fine, and even the area was not the worst area I've been to.
So we tried to stay in that other hotel.
Oh God, yeah, with the fucking like each bed had its own fucking mosquito net,
double mosquito nets. Like so. Let's paint a picture here. Like, so of all the awesome places that we got to go to, right? Remind me to let you know what's happening to John right now.
Okay.
After offline.
Sure.
We got to amazing fucking moon, like just dinners and snorkeling and fucking all these beautiful places in the world, right? And you get to go to some real shitholes. I used to fly with a fucking a cocoon, like a linen cocoon. So that I didn't have to touch the sheets in the fucking the atrocity of a fucking bed. Like I had my own fucking mosquito netting and I had that fucking cocoon so that I wouldn't have to touch the sheets. And I'd have that shit fucking around my head because it wasn't like even a paranoia thing. It was like on one particular trip, one of the fucking users gets malaria.
Yeah.
Like, and you're in these countries, like if you get sick, like what you don't appreciate, like, oh, I'm going on an REI trip to fucking Mount Kilimanjaro. Cool spot, by the way. But where do you think you're going? If you fucking have a fall, you have a compound fracture, where do you think you're going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you're going to the fucking, this high speed fucking place? Like, no, you're not. Like, you're going to a place that doesn't have modern medical facilities, probably doesn't have the proper anesthesia that you would get in the States. Like, you have to make these considerations when you decide to go on these trips. Like, if you're fucking devil may care, I don't give a shit, then that's fine. But having witnessed people fucking get sick while we're in some of these places and they're subject to the fucking local whatever.
Yeah.
Not good. Even in places in Europe where you think like, oh man, this is pretty modern. No, we're going to go ahead and we're going to retract that a smidge for some of those places. But yeah, it's, Chad was awful, man. It was just bad. It was the culmination of everything that is Africa, right? The smell, the food or the lack thereof, the accommodations, the bugs, the overthrowing of the government while you're there, the extortion of money trying to get out of the fucking country, like it's just every element of fucking Africa was in this one particular spot.
Yeah.
And both of us have had multiple instances of these types of situations. And there's a lot there. There's a lot there to unpack, kids.
All right, moving on. Chad Vickers wants to know, at what rank and what year did they implant the tracking device AFPAS, and what vaccine did they use to do it?
So it was the anthrax vaccine.
Never had it, by the way.
First dose. And I think my chip is going strong. If all else is broken, my chip is still good.
I think for me it was the swine flu vaccine. Was that the one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because remember it was the H1N1?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, remember there was one of these other fucking...
They hit me with the flashy thing and I just like whatever.
Yeah.
Look, we had shots like in all like what the kids don't get. When we got shots with fucking those guns.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like a processing line. You just...
Yep. Yeah. There's a picture in here of it. The actual fucking line. Like, so if anybody ever questions, like, no, that's not, they don't do shit like that.
Bullshit.
Yeah. See this picture? I don't know if you can tell, but see that poor girl getting fucking shot with the air pistol with the fucking whatever.
Yeah, you got like 3 of those on each side.
Yeah, you'd go in a line and you'd go fucking around, like, and then come back around to get the next one. And you'd go until you either passed out or got all your shots, and you just sat there like a...
And oh, by the way, if anybody in your flight got strep throat, guess who all got to get fucking penicillin shots in the ass during basic training?
Yeah, thankfully I didn't have
no, I did. Yeah, and those needles were like this fucking thick. Like the size of a fucking pencil, and they jammed it in your fucking ass cheek, and it hurt.
It seems unnecessary, doesn't it? Like,
no, the unnecessary part was where he stuck 2 fingers into my asshole. But I mean, I didn't question it. It was basic training. So
4 times today. 4 times the finger wave has been brought up today. Yeah. So yeah, that's where the shot was.
So sidebar, I saw this great meme today.
Yeah.
It was, I think Kristen actually sent this to me. It was a female doctor and a male patient. And she's like, "Sir, you're going to have to stop masturbating." Mm. And the guy's like, "For how long?" And she's like, "At least until we finish the prostate exam."
So as part of the sidebar, Vickers and Nick and I were having this conversation about, like, you get to a certain age and, you get the exam, right? It's one of those things, a digital exam.
You're going to feel a pressure.
Yeah. In your tonsils. Otherwise affectionately known as the finger wave, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're having a conversation about that, like you do, right? This is the beauty of going back into the office environment, right? You get to have these conversations.
Yeah.
So as that conversation is kind of winding down, I get a Facebook message from Solsky, who sent me that meme.
Right. Oh,
after we
right.
just had started talking, we just finished talking about it. Then this meme shows up.
Yeah, no, he's the one who sent it to me. That's right.
Then this meme shows up, and I'm like, "Fuck!" I showed it to everybody. I'm like, "We were just fucking talking about this," and then it gets brought up twice more in the fucking podcast.
Yeah,
that's fucking
hilarious.
Weird.
All right. Anyway,
what was the other one?
The implant device and what vaccine did they use to use it, and then describe the most infuriating person you have had to interact with in the military. Ugh.
I think for you, it shouldn't be somebody that you're working with right now.
And honestly, I don't think it is.
Really?
No, you know who it was? My fucking instructor at boom school. Guy was a fucking prick. I hated him. He was an asshole for no reason. He thought he was like a TI in basic training, right? I'm a 6-7 year military veteran at this point. He's treating me like he's a fucking TI. He fucking dipped. Like, people, if you do chewing tobacco, you're fucking disgusting. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you, but he dipped. And he always had this fucking dip can, and he was always like breathing down my fucking like neck, like constantly looking over me and breathing into me. And this is in the fucking middle of the summer in fucking Altus, Oklahoma. Oh, it's so fucking hot.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to fucking Ralph in the jet because it's so hot, and we're doing pattern work for like 3 hours. And he's fucking leaning into me with his fucking dip in his mouth and everything. And I'm just like trying not to fucking puke. He was a fucking asshole.
Did you at least get to sit in a crew chief table, or this in the cockpit?
This is in the cockpit.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he was the most frustrating person I ever had to deal with. Pat Haney was his name. He and I had the same birthday, by the way, which was weird.
The very same day, like
different year. I think he was a year older than me. But
obviously he knew better than you did. Hence why he talked down to you.
Right.
The whole parent-child relationship.
Yeah. No, I fucking hated that guy. That's probably the most frustrating person I've ever had to deal with in the military.
So I have a list of people, but
well, you have to pick one.
Yeah. So I have to say that it was one of the commanders that we had in the old unit. And it was the guy who he was fucking lazy. He was lazy by nature.
Did he have his own businesses?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Enough said.
And it's this individual like thought his shit didn't stink. Like, you talking about me having like this giant head, like I knew everything. I did know everything. Like, this guy, bona fide, like, has been countered on. Like, he makes a statement, the alternate evidence is presented to him, he doubles down on the wrong statement. Like, okay, dude, you're just being a megalomaniac, which is what he was. And the guy talked down to enlisted. His only redeeming factor was that he had good hands. Like, and he did. He had good hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, from an aviator perspective, if you have good hands, they're not going to kill you in the airplane, basically.
Yeah.
And he did. He had good hands. He was a FAPE at one point. But, you know, this is the guy that directly led to, you know, certain things happening in my career that, I mean, he held grudges. So
yeah,
this individual, I called him out. I was giving a check ride and I called him out on something in the brief because he was fucking, like, it was wrong. He was wrong. I was the evaluator. I called him out. And you know, as a younger guy, I had been burned a couple times by not calling people out during an evaluation, trying to like handle it at a lower level. But then I got realized very quickly that my responsibility was really to take care of it right away. And I did that with him. And both him and the co-pilot that was with him, like, both of them took the same fucking attitude and carried it with them all the way to that point where it affected whether or not I got a promotion.
Right.
And he was that type of person.
Somebody who, like you said, good pilot should not have been in a leadership position.
No. And like actively made decisions that were counter to what would be considered proper military etiquette, and had said racial things in briefings. I just, like, the dude was fuck.
So, all right.
Piss on him if he was burning.
There you go. Well, we won't dwell on that too much more. We got a few more questions before we close this up. Lunar Girl asks, if you could go back to anywhere you've already been stationed or laid over and stay for a week, where would you go? How many countries have you been to? Favorite regular meal, favorite special occasion meal? Is that military related? Did either of you have that stereotypical nightmare drill sergeant? I think we've kind of covered that already. Do either of you cry when you hear the Star Spangled Banner? She says in parentheses, she does. And then best care package you ever received. So let's break this down. Places we've been to that we'd go to for a week. I mean, I think for me, the Big Island on Hawaii is still like one of the best ones.
Yeah.
You know, you're away from more of the touristy stuff, but it's still fucking Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's still phenomenal.
Like, you're getting the weather, but you're also getting to go to like the Kilauea National Park with the fucking volcanoes.
Yeah. And like
black sand beaches.
The best snorkeling I've ever done was on the Big Island in Hawaii, where I was snorkeling. I was on the beach. We were on one of those resorts on the water. I go out there, I'm snorkeling, I'm just fucking swimming around and see all kinds of fish and stuff. And all of a sudden I see something massive out of my peripheral just go whoom right beside me. I look up, this massive fucking sea turtle just like swims right by me. I'm like, that's fucking amazing. So
I had snorkeling stuff that I traveled with.
I did too.
The itinerary, because I didn't want to have to fucking deal with rental masks and all that other bullshit.
Yeah.
So we had our own stuff. Again, part of the good stuff.
Fucking had some not so great news in the chat. Hope your grandmother's okay. Stone bleeds. Ugh.
Yeah. This is a tough one for me because one of my favorite spots in the world was Diego Garcia. And Diego had, even today, like, it's one of those places where, because it's so isolated, like, it's isolated, but yet there's stuff, like, non-COVID.
Right.
But there's, like, you go to the Chiefs mess and, like, it has, like, a good bar situation. It's a good place to, like, get drunk and you sleep on the beach and, like, you go. The bad parts about Diego is, like, the water gives you cancer, so you don't get the water in your mouth. But every time I went there, it was just so nice to be completely unplugged. Right? There's, like, we had, in our old job, we had fucking work phones, and we had, at one point, we had Blackberries and pagers and, like, all this equipment that kept us tied to everything that was going on. And the novelty of going to a place where none of that worked, that you could just, hey, if you need me to go to the fucking airplane, you know where I am. This place isn't that big.
Yeah.
Come and fucking get me and we'll go do what we got to do. But in the meantime, if you're there, then you just, it's probably one of the few places where it's truly isolated to the point where you can actually get crew rest and enjoy yourself.
Yeah. All right. For her other question, how many countries have we been to? One of these days I need to sit down and actually count it up. It's over 50 for me, for sure. And I'm sure it's the same for you too.
88.
You have the count, the official count? Okay.
Well, so, and here's the thing with my list, right? Sorry, I'm away from the microphone. Here's the thing with my list. Only countries that I've either spent the night or I had to have been long enough to take a shit there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's on my list. Like, there's been places where we've just done, like, drop-offs and shit like that. But, like, of that fucking list of 88 countries, like, every one of those we've either spent the night or I've fucking been able to be there long enough to take a shit.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot. I mean, there's 150 countries in the world. So
last I looked, it's like 190, which that seems high.
Yeah.
Like,
well, there's a lot of little tiny ones here and there.
But I mean, honestly, most Americans have seen one country in their life.
Yeah.
Maybe two or three.
Yeah. Most Air Force people have only seen a dozen.
Yeah. So
we're so fucking lucky.
But I can tell you for sure I'm over 50. For sure. I don't know if I'm close to your 80, but I'm up.
You gotta remember, I was in the unit for a long time before you were too.
Yeah.
Like, when it was in the previous weapon system and everything else. And we got to go similar places.
Yep. I want to skip ahead to the best care package we ever received, because I was on one of my deployments in the late 90s. This is when Kristen and I were, we were pretty serious in our relationship. I think we might even have been living together at this point, or we were about to move in together. And I was in Morón, Spain for a couple of months for, I think this was when the fucking Kosovo shit was going on. Mm-hmm. Kosovo and,
Bosnian
and all that shit going on.
Slobodan Milosevic.
Yes. Yep. Killing the ethnic Albanians and all that. Anyway, I was deployed for like 2 months for that. And Kristen sent me this fucking awesome care package, which consisted of, like, this was around Easter time too. So, like, fucking a shitload of Cadbury eggs. She sent me because I was also huge into professional wrestling at this point. She had sent me a VHS tape of the most recent WrestleMania.
Wow.
This was also when Sable, like, I don't know if you know who she was, but she was,
I know the name.
Yeah, she was a figure in professional wrestling, started doing Playboy spreads. And Kristen sent me the Playboy with her in it. And that was pretty awesome. Sable Playboy cover. I'm just going to pull it up real quick just to see if you recognize it. Yeah, right there. That
I remember
that edition
I
of Playboy
that
right there. She sent me that. Like I said, a bunch of fucking candy, a bunch of Cadbury eggs, which I absolutely love. Some like fucking wrestling tapes. It was awesome. That was the best care package I ever received. This was probably in 98 or 99.
I'm trying to think. I don't think when I was deployed in 99.
April 99. So
Yeah.
that's when
I was deployed in January of 99. And I don't think I got a care package. That was in Incirlik, and it was, unless you were like, there wasn't much transitory traffic through Incirlik. Like you were either coming in with the deployment and bringing those jets and then swapping with another unit that was coming out. So there wasn't like a lot of like back and forth with that intensity. Like mail call wasn't really a thing. We had a lot of the other shit, with the morale calls, and like we could talk at length. I think we talked about a little bit at Gen X POV. We're talking about phones and calling cards and shit like that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, nothing like that. Not an experience like that.
Oh, that's too bad.
Package.
I mean, I received quite a few care packages over the years, especially like that first stint in active duty.
Right.
That's a little disappointing that you never got one. But
all right, and it just doesn't. I don't remember, but I don't think so.
Real quick, we had one last person send us a whole bunch of questions. We're probably not going to be able to touch most of these, but from Anonymous, what was the most classified thing you ever handled? Obviously, we can't talk about that because, like we said at the top of the show, we have clearances that we don't want to fuck up. So
I don't even want to joke about anything.
Right. What was the worst Blue Falcon you encountered? I don't even know what that means.
You don't know what Blue Falcon is?
No.
Google that right now.
Like live here on the show?
Yeah.
Blue Falcon.
I can't believe. No.
Okay.
No. Not the superhero Blue Falcon.
I don't know what.
Like buddy fucking. Yeah, they're open.
Buddy fucker what?
Yeah.
Military police terms refers to someone who commonly fucks over their buddies. Yeah. Oh.
Yes.
That includes, but be limited to the following: leaving work early when they volunteered to do something. Oh, okay.
Yeah, shit like that. Blue Falcon.
Oh.
When you were a maintainer, that had to have happened. So I know that's when it did for me. Most of it was when I was a fucking maintainer.
I think I might have been doing most of the Blue Falconing at the time.
Well, and honestly, like, unfortunately, in an op squadron with people that would go tactical to NIF and shit like that, that's a Blue Falcon.
Okay, well, we've got experience with those.
Yes, absolutely, we do.
All right, fair enough. Worst thing you ever saw someone do in your unit? I mean,
I watched a guy pee on the pyramids.
I think you told me that story. Yeah.
And in fairness to him, he asked, "Hey, where can I go to the bathroom?" And security pointed to the pyramid, said, "Go there." He's like, "No, I have to go." And they're like, "Yeah, right there." So there's photographic evidence of this individual fucking peeing on the pyramids.
It's fucking classic. I think being in, I should not even
I would agree.
Allude to answering this question. Are all Air Force officers in a satanic cult, or is it just lieutenant colonel and up? I think it's all of them.
No, the academy guys.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Ones that went to the Air Force Academy.
Yeah.
They're lieutenant colonel, not or any academy guy. Definitely in a cult.
Yeah.
For sure.
I've got this pretty good friend in my squadron that I'm in right now. He's currently a staff sergeant. He's about to commission. He's leaving in like 2 weeks to go to officer school. And every single time he says something like, "Oh, I really need to be like saving money and all that," I'm like, spoken like a true officer. I bust his balls all the time about officers being fucking cheap asses.
Yeah.
Because
it's amazing. And you know what? Like it may seem counterintuitive, especially like maintainers, because let's face it, as maintainers, the only time you saw officers were in the cockpit of the airplane or if you were in trouble. Like, because you dealt with senior non-commissioned officers, E8s, E9s. But I lost my fucking train of thought.
Cheap officers.
Oh yeah, this airline pilot mentality of like, oh shit, I have to drive this crap car or whatever. That's like you either have that sect or you have the ones that go fucking full blown overboard, right? They spend money like they're fucking senior airmen getting back from a deployment,
right?
And they have like, oh, I have to have the most expensive thing, and let's face it, that being cheap is one thing, but it's when that cheap is, hey, you just got promoted to lieutenant colonel, we're on the road. And you don't buy everyone around a beer or something like that. Like you deliberately bounce before you fucking get to a bar or something because you don't have to pay.
Yeah, or you ordered like 3 or 4 drinks and you want to split the check evenly.
Yeah, my friend that I spoke about earlier was notorious for doing shit like that.
How do I dial an 8th chevron? Hilarious.
You dial 9. You got to dial 9 first.
Right, of course. And then what is the gate address for P3X888? I don't even know what that means.
42.
Sure. But that's it for a majority of the AMA questions and really our military career discussion. We've been going for a long fucking time.
Yeah, three and change. People.
Yeah. So next week we're back to Chappelle Show.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
And then we are taking a break. We are taking a week off for the week of the 4th of July because we're both leaving town. So instead of trying to figure out a way to get an extra episode in, we're just going to take a week off because it's our fucking show and we do what we want.
That's right. Bitches.
Yeah. So if you need to fill that gap in the interim, you can always check out our friends over at the Escape Pod.
Yes.
Or Used and Abused.
Every Wednesday. I don't know the Used and Abused schedule.
They go live at like 3 a.m. something like that.
Shit, man. Like good on you, man. Especially because they're rocking our merch proudly.
Yes.
Yes. I can't. It's too early. It's too fucking early. It's as it is right now. Getting out of the house, I'm waking up halfway through my fucking exercise at the gym.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh my god, I'm at the gym. What the fuck happened? Right. So I guess there's worse places to wake up.
Yeah. So while we're on hiatus for the 4th, you can have your holes filled by Don and Brady or Scott and Kim.
Yes.
They will fill your holes.
Yes.
However much you need.
Right.
And we'll be back the week after the 4th.
If you're not filled enough, go over to Sweet Studios on YouTube. Check out his quarantine sessions.
Yes.
He's getting good accolades for this last one with the aha one.
Oh yeah, no, he's
got a lot of play. So
he's very talented. He's got a really good network of musicians that he's doing stuff with. So check them out. And oh, by the way, the Used and Abused, they go live at 5 a.m. Eastern on Tuesdays.
Those are crazy. What?
That might be the only time they can do it. They're busy people. So anyway. Next week, Chappelle Show episodes 4, 5, and 6. Yes. We're going to cover from season 1. So I think we talked about it before, but we're going to just do it again real quick. Just to see what's on these episodes, because it's good stuff from what I remember. So episode 4, Dave awards women with great New York boobs and predicts the chaos caused by reparations for slavery.
Oh, God.
Very timely episode. Episode 5, Dave reflects on great moments in hookup history and dares viewers to ask a black dude. Rest in peace, Paul Mooney.
Yep.
And then episode 6, Dave imagines if the real world did a season with an all-black cast and one white guy.
Yeah.
So many fucking classic episodes. I cannot fucking wait.
It's going to be a dangerous episode.
Mad real.
Yeah.
Mad real, son. All right. So, all right.
Yes. Used and Abused. 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We just want to. Kelly was emphasizing that. So we're going to go ahead and do that.
What are we? They're fucking promoters? Come on. We're
yes.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for the show, I think.
Yes.
We've been going long enough.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody's still with us, honestly.
It's all good.
So thank you everybody for sticking with us. Hopefully we answered most of your questions. And if we didn't, hit us up on Facebook, the private Facebook group, the Sidebar Cantina, or at the Sidebar Cantina on Instagram.
Yes.
And until next time, nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
Except for lightning at 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now what do I click?
Perfect. I was hoping you'd do that one. Oh my God.
I had it warmed up earlier.
Good.
I'm gonna pee.
You do that.
Diet Cokes are ripping through me. It's almost 9.
I know. We talked a long time. So 2:05. The after show is not going to be very long. I'm just going to let you guys know that right now, raw, because it is almost. It's pretty much bedtime. Hope you guys enjoyed it, though. Hope it made sense. Boise State stops the U.S. Air Force. That's messed up. I got all kinds of Facebook messages. Who the hell's...
Hey, so we don't turn on the air, first of all. What the fuck?
Yeah. I know. I was like sweating at the end there.
Jesus. Yeah, some of these fucking quotes in this thing. Here, you should read some of these.
Oh man. Like from people who signed it?
Yeah.
Oh god. The first one I read. Martin, I'd like to say that I enjoyed listening to you rant and rave. That's the first thing I read in Dave's fucking basic training yearbook or whatever you want to call this. Over the utility room.
Utility room, that's what it was called, not the supply room.
Oh my god. It's hard to read some of these. Martin, fuck the utility room.
I'll tell you, man, that was...
Wow. Yeah, a lot of people talking about you as the utility room chief.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fucking... BSU seems to stop Air Force at football. Whatever.
Yeah, I saw that as you were peeing.
What on earth? Oh my god. Oh. This has got diabetes written all over it. There's this over here.
Oh, I love this one. It starts off, "Hey, douchebag."
That's from Kathy.
Quite with yeah, right. My God, how did he write so small? Jesus. How is it?
It's good, but I wasn't expecting that flavor.
What flavor?
I don't know. What was I expecting?
It's not vanilla.
Right.
This
like
is
peanut butter.
This is a weird one. How's it going? Not bad here. Well, it's finally over. Yeah, I need to see if I can find my mom's book or find the book that my mom has. Oh, good day one stuff with people with normal hair.
Yep.
Half of them look like they're about to cry. Ugh.
We had one dude. We had one dude in basic. So this, what the fuck was his name? I can't even think of it right now. But his father was a general in the guard.
Really?
And he's in there as an enlisted puke, right? And he just thought he just walked around like his shit didn't stink, right?
Oh, one of those.
Yeah. So, and honestly, my basic training flight, we had really good, like, for as many of us as there were, like, there really weren't any issues personality wise, except for this fucking clown. So he decides to pick a fight with we had twins, the Skeen brothers. And
in your flight?
In the flight. And
they put them both in the same flight.
They're in the same flight.
That seems smart.
So we had twins. And so, remember you had a mouse? Like the mouse was kind of like the TI secretary.
Yep.
So we had mice because it was the twins. They fucking divided the duty.
Nice.
So homeboy decides he's going to pick a fight with one of the fucking twins. And we didn't like we liked the twins, hated this kid, so was shocked when everyone turned against him when he's trying to pick a fight with one of these guys, right?
Right.
Goes and complains to the fucking TIs about it. Like, you're picking on me, right? Meanwhile, they know full well what's going on because, they're listening at the fucking box.
Mm-hmm.
They hear everything that's going on. So
331st right there.
So we had, how do I describe this? So this dude, he gets fucking pink eye, right?
Oh, Jesus.
He gets fucking pink eye, and, basically it's that whole thing. Like, we didn't all get the fucking penicillin shot, but everyone's like, kind of being isolated from around where he was, his fucking bunk area and everything else. And we come to find out the dude gets pink eye because he shaved out of the urinal.
Are you kidding me?
His face out of the urinal. I shit you not. So this dumb motherfucker, his excuse, like, this is why he got pink eye, right? His excuse was that we didn't let him get to the sink, which is bullshit. And honestly, we all used the same fucking sink because you kept the other ones clean, so you didn't have to fucking wash 6 sinks all the time.
Yeah.
You used one sink, right? And I didn't have to shave. I was 21. Like, I barely grow facial hair now. I didn't grow this shit at all, back then. So I shaved like every other day.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about it. This fucking dude says that we didn't let him into the sink and that he overheard the female flight say that they shaved out of the urinal. Like, they shaved their legs, you dumb motherfucker. Like, they're completely different than putting a fucking razor in the urinal and then in your face. And he wonders why he got fucking pink eye. Yeah. He ended up washing back.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. He couldn't stand our fight anymore.
Oh my God.
Because when the TI came up and he told us what was going on, and we're all sitting there going like, we just didn't say anything. He's like, that's what I thought. Okay. He's gone. And they fucking washed him back.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Fuck that kid, man. This dumb face. He's in one of the fucking haircut pictures. You can tell he's a jack off when you look at him.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Take the other one.
I'm going to.
All right. We're going to cut the after party short because we went for a long fucking time and I got to get to bed soon. So,
yeah, same. I gotta be in Philly at 7.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for sticking around, but we're closing up shop. So see you next week.
Bye.
Take care.